Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Interesting episode for you today. My guest today is named Aaron Howard. He is a former United States Navy SEAL. I actually put him through BUD/S, and his story is a very difficult one to tell. He was tried and found guilty under the UCMJ, or the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and currently has an appeal to attempt to overturn his conviction. The story is his to tell, which I obviously allow him to do so inside of the episode, and I would do an extremely poor job of actually trying to describe it. So you're going to have to hear it for yourself. And what you're going to notice probably for the first time in the history of the podcast, I had to bleep some stuff out. And people are going to ask why, so I'm just going to go ahead and front load it. There's two reasons. One, there were what I would consider to be a few sensitive topics or terms that were brought up. And I'm pretty sure if you did a deep and robust Google search, you would find them to be open source. But I am not going to put anything on a platter for anybody that I consider to be sensitive. And secondly, names were used. And I don't have an issue with anybody using names, but some of those people are still active duty in the military. And I believe that both parties should have at least the opportunity to speak if they want to. So in order to allow Aaron to tell his story in the way that he chose to, I bleeped out the names of all active duty service members because they don't have the same opportunity, and it's just safer for all parties. And with that, I'm going to let you get into it. Episode number 217 with Aaron Howard. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
Like right now, we're podcasting. That's how it is. You're going to have to get way fucking closer to that mic, though, at all times. Yeah, you got to keep it close.
Hi.
Sweet. You can, if you want to lean back, look at this. You can go all the way back.
It's weird, man. Like I figured, like the seats are kind of like it's almost like you're riding like one of those electric cow bulls things. Right here, you can kind of grab on it right here.
I mean, if you want to think about it like that, you can. If you need to hold on to the mic for like comfort and safe, just like swing it around. It's fine.
Yeah. Hey, no, kick it off, man. No worries. Thanks for being here. Love to be in. I'm in Whitefish, not Kalispell.
You're in Kalispell, but you're staying in Whitefish.
Kalispell. I've heard it several different ways.
Kalispell. Yeah. I tell you what, man. It's a hidden gem. I've lived here for July 1st of this year will be 5 years. The cat has been out of the bag with Montana for a long time. It's obviously a huge, beautiful state.
Because of Yellowstone?
Even before that. I mean,
where's the Dutton Ranch at?
That actually exists in Montana.
Really?
And they filmed, for people who like Yellowstone and don't know this, maybe turn it off, but they filmed most of the first two seasons in Park City. And they would only come up to Montana for the ranch scene. And I believe that Utah did something with their tax credits, so now they filmed the entire show in Montana.
So is that actually somebody's ranch? Or
yeah,
is it just
it's an actual ranch. There's actually the small little guest ranch that shows up in some of the earlier episodes is a VRBO like guest ranch during the year when they are not, which I have no association or connection with, everybody. I'm not going to kick back from that. But yeah, if you want to go to the Dutton Ranch, apparently you can VRBO that thing.
Really?
The small section of it.
Okay, like the bunkhouse. Like you can stay in the bunkhouse.
Ooh, I don't even know if it's the bunkhouse. I think it's like this even smaller, like little outhouse.
You know, you always hear people talking about like, man, I want to go to Montana. Montana's cool. Montana's great. It's the last man country, or I guess nowadays person country, like the last known frontier.
Yeah.
And you always talk about it, but you never hear anybody who's from there.
I'm not from here, so I'm talking about it from
or living here. Actually, it's like I'm going to Montana. I was like, what are you doing in Montana? I know there's Yellowstone in Montana, and I know Montana's awesome, but I've never been to Montana. Never thought I'd be to Whitefish, Montana.
Whitefish is kind of bougie.
I was hungry when I got the plane, so I was like, man, I'm starving. What can I going to eat? And I was like, there's a McDonald's.
Huckleberry.
There you go, man.
Taffies,
Huckleberries.
which actually,
the staple of Montana.
I've never had any, so I'll have one of these after and then consider myself a true local.
Well, I know. I was like, hey, she's like, here, enjoy our free Huckleberry taffy. I was like, so I took a bite. I was like, tastes just like taffy.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's funny, too. It's like I've had, I guess, kind of, the woe is me interaction flying here. It's like, I woke up early, thought I was going to miss my flight. Then my flight was delayed. And then we sat on the tarmac for an hour, out of DFW to Denver. Then from Denver, we sat on the tarmac for another hour. And I get here, they're like, we don't have your bags. So I was like, that's cool, man.
Do they at least know where they are?
9:30 tonight, I got to pick them up. I got rerouted with myself and a couple other people.
Fuck that. Have them deliver them to you.
No, because that's just gonna be another.
I see what you're saying.
Murphy follows me everywhere, man. Like, no matter, it's just like,
Yeah.
and so then I get all this stuff out, and I finally like, okay, well, I'll Uber. So I can't get any service in the airport right there.
What provider do you have?
I got Verizon, but I also have an iPhone 10.
That's the problem.
NCIS still has my regular phone, so if they can give me back my phone.
They still have your phone?
Well, the command has my phone now, so somebody from the command, and we'll get into that. Somebody from the command checked out my phone, took my phone from NCIS, and they have my phone and computer right now. And they're supposed to give it back. They're supposed to give it back to you after 5 years. It's been 5 years.
What's that 5 years based off of?
Dude, I have no idea.
Is it Is it like a security thing, or is it? We'll have to.
It's whatever the fuck they want to do, kind of thing. 5 years is just a general number.
Okay.
Just to make you think that you'll never get it back. But from what I know, is 5 years is just the rule of law. But they can do whatever they want to, man, and we'll get into that. It's just.
Where do you want to start? Where should we begin, Mr. Howard?
So from Waxahachie, Texas. So it's like,
Why'd you want to be a SEAL?
I didn't want to be a SEAL.
What the fuck did you do going to Buds then?
So people always ask me that. It's like, what made you want to be a SEAL? And I was like, of course I watched all the movies growing up. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Who doesn't?
I know. And he's the reason I got my black belt at karate at 14. I got a little video of VHS like
Karate, no big deal.
I didn't think anybody, but I was like, none of my family or nothing. I was like, I like to thank Jean-Claude Van Damme for getting me here for this day. And like my whole family's watching me. I'm like, that was a kick in the face because they helped me.
They're like, you motherfucker, we brought you here to class every day. Old JVD didn't do shit for you.
Knock Soom Cow, it's like that. But so I didn't want to be. I always knew about it and everything, but I was never like really intrigued by being a SEAL. Like that's what I'm gonna do when I grow up. I had no idea what I would do growing up.
Yeah,
I was just a kid in high school who got in fights, sold drugs, and then when I was a senior, I got a DWI and a lot of other things. So went to a concert, 311 concert down in Austin, Texas.
311. I might have to find some of that music and splice it in for the intro.
I know, man. And I still listen to them today, too. I got my kids listening to them. It's like, it'll never die. It'll never die.
Thankfully.
Limp Bizkit, all day.
Dude. Apparently, somebody was telling me he lives up here. Oh, Mr. Durst, for those who don't know what we're talking about.
I thought he was in Jacksonville. Who knows?
Let's be honest. There's a very good chance he's in Florida.
There's a very good chance he could be in Ohio, too.
But he's out of his fucking mind. And those people live in Florida.
But the thing is, too, is they always come back and they still try to rock. And they do rock hard. It's just they're older.
They rock less hard because of their age.
Well, Limp Bizkit or something. Say Metallica, well, forever, like they keep rocking to their 80s. But somebody like Grand Funk Railroad is like, bro, give it up.
Yeah, you have to.
Like nobody wants to hear you. Nobody wanted to hear you then. Nobody wants to hear you now. So it's
true.
Like, so I got it. So back to that 311 concert and everything. I got a DWI, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
Criminal.
Just curfew. Minor possession. They threw the book at me.
Yeah.
And so it was like, got my car towed. They threw me in jail. Spend the whole time there. And my dad was out of town that weekend, and it was just my mom. So I kind of finagled my mom to let me go out and, partay.
Yeah. 17, 18 at the
18,
time?
yeah, 2 weeks before I graduated. So, but she didn't know I was going to go out and party and get arrested and all that stuff. But anyway, I got a cool judge who was a wife of a master chief. And she was like, you got two options. Option one is, well, you're fucked. Option two, you can enlist into any military branch you want to, and I will expunge it from your record. Just bring me your, enlistment papers. I'm like, sweet. Of course, after that, I go into, sit down. First one I go to, I want to be a Marine. I want to be in the infantry, I walk into the store. I walk into the recruiting office, and there's two dudes, shaved heads, Indian style, right next to the recruiter's desk, nose touching the wall. And here I come sitting in, I want to be a Marine. And of course, they look away, and all of a sudden the Marine, how they are, turns, just starts yelling at them. They put their nose back on the wall, like, I'm good. I don't want to be a Marine.
Good day, sir. I'm going to go find the Air Force.
Yeah. So I went to the Air Force. Because in Texas, it's a strip mall.
Dude,
and you got
it's a strip mall everywhere.
Army, Navy, Air Force, and then Coast Guard's like at the very end.
Bro, when I joined in Santa Cruz, California, it was a fucking strip mall, and I had to walk past all the other recruiters to get to the Navy one.
And so I finally went to the Navy one. this guy's like, yeah, talking to me. He's like, so what do you want to be? I was like, I don't know. Take the ASVAB, all that bullshit. But first, before you take the ASVAB, we got to do, sign up and stuff. So, okay. So I went back, told my dad, X, Y, Z, that's what we got to do. Take the ASVAB. I get a 37.
For people listening, that's not a high score.
No, that's not caring about anything you're going to do in life score.
That's not a 37 out of 36.
No. So I get a 37, and then they want to talk to me about it. So it's like, okay, well, you can't do anything in the Navy except for be undesignated. So I'm like, well, what is undesignated? And he's like, well, you get to pick your own rate. You have no job, so you get to work with, the ITs, or you get to work with the OSs.
So he lied to you.
Yeah, you want to be HT welding? Oh, you get to weld all you want. You get to weld. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Pick your own job. Well, then when I was talking to my dad, I was like, well, what about EOD? And he's like, your son can't do anything right now until he gets a different ASVAB score. and so I signed everything, and my dad's right there. But he's like, okay, well, last thing is, before you go off the MEPS, we got to take a piss test. Of course, go back to MP, and boom, you pissed positive. And my dad just looked at, I pissed positive for weed right in front of my dad. 18. He's just like, can't even get my son into the, the military.
Fuck.
So he's like, well, 2 weeks, come back, test you again. Came back 2 weeks, tested me again. I was clean. Shipped off to boot camp. And you know how that goes with boot camp. It's just like, I'm stenciling my underwear, whitey tighties that are, first they were like 5 sizes too big.
Yep.
They wash them, and they're 5 sizes too small.
Folded like a knife cutting edge.
Skinny, fat, skinny. I still fold my shirts that way.
I do too.
Because it's so easy, and
they conveniently fit in a drawer.
And it never wrinkles.
People have no idea what the fuck we are talking about right now, but you and I do.
I know. This is like, and so I remember I went to the DEP program.
Delayed entry program for those listening.
Well, and it was, okay, you can wake up, an hour or 2 hours early, and you can run underneath the bridge and go and work out with the SEALs or recruiters. So I was like, I'll go do that. I'll try that out. And so I went in there, and I couldn't do 3 pull-ups. I couldn't do 5. And so I did 3, and I was like, 5. He's like, you didn't do 5. Go back. So I went back. Dreams of trying to be anything special was crushed. So then finally graduated, and then was undesignated. So I went to a ship. Went down to Pascagoula, Mississippi. Got a house in Biloxi, undesignated seaman. What was it? Seaman Howard I was. And then deck division, get underway. Here's a needle gun.
Oh, fuck.
Go over there, not skid. And then if you don't know what a needle gun is, it basically looks like, a microphone or whatever with 3 little prongs.
Yeah. You're basically chip and paint, right?
Yeah. That's it. Painting, chip and paint that, paint more. And so I was like, well, this sucks. So I got to retake the ASVAB. And I met this guy, man. Honestly, it's like, even thinking about it now, I was like, I don't know why I would become a SEAL. Somebody was like, hey, we need SAR swimmers. So they had SAR swimmers posted on the ship. I was on a frigate. So a frigate, it was 211 people. That's full crew. That's with the helo, Coast Guard, everybody. And, I was talking to a diver, man, because there's always like divers, divers over the side, don't throw nothing over the side, X, Y, Z. And I was like, man, being a diver would be cool, because he came up wearing camis. They don't do nothing all day, and all they do is work out and eat stuff all day. So I was like, I'll be a diver. And then looking more into it, I was like, nah. He's like, dude, don't be a diver. If you don't do something special, go into it. And I think it was just in basic conversation, but nothing with ever SEAL. And so I saw a bunch of stuff, posted around the ship, and which frigates are decommissioned now. So 435 feet long. USS John L. Hall I was on. And I was like, I'll be a SAR swimmer. But knowing that nobody before me passed SAR school, so that ship, the John L. Hall, didn't deploy for like 4 or 5 deployments because they couldn't have anybody pass SAR school.
Jesus.
So I was like, I'll go. And everybody's like, well, can you pass? I'm like, wow.
Depends on the test.
I guess. So I was like, send me away. So they sent me to Pensacola, Florida. And here I am in the SAR school and stuff. And man, it was...
SAR stands for search and rescue.
I swam more in SAR school than I ever did in BUD/S.
Really?
Ever. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is probably their number one job requirement.
And we would do like a test, and right after the test would be like an 800-yard or 800-meter buddy tow, where I had to do that. And it was brutal, man. Like, I swam a lot in SAR school, more than more than buds.
Yeah.
Because, buds, you go out there and just do a 2-mile ocean
2-miler,
swim.
yeah.
Was it Tuesday or Wednesday or some shit like that?
Hey, what is it? 4-mile time runs on Monday, swim Tuesday, obstacle course Wednesday, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is like that anymore or not. But,
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I never saw you out there when you put us through buds, so I'm sure you probably still don't know either then. I mean,
What?
you always would skate out. Hey, 4-mile time run, where's Stump at? I don't know. He just left.
Why the fuck would I need to be there?
I'm just messing with him. That's exactly. But,
You have to delegate. As a leader, you have to delegate the authority to the junior people you're trying to train.
seek responsibility, take responsibility. So long story short is I passed our school. It was fun. And then I was in the good graces of the CO because I basically, I guess, saved, because everyone got fired. Every CO got fired after that because nobody would pass SAR school because you need a SAR swimmer.
Yeah, otherwise you're non-deployable.
You're non-deployable. So I passed it, and all of a sudden, I saved this CO's career. And so he was just like, holy shit, whatever you need, let me know. And from then on, he was like, you are mainly the SAR swimmer. They pulled me out of deck division, and literally all I did was I slept and I did SAR stuff. So I do like with SAR, like man overboard drills, like man overboard. I get my fins on, I get my wetsuit on, I get my gigantic mask on.
Your Jacques Cousteau model
Yeah,
mask.
everything. I was Kim lights like a Christmas tree, and I get out there and they, put the yellow yard lowering line or whatever on me. I'd swim out, they bring me back, and that was it. That's all I did on deployment. Came back.
So your life got better.
I guess a little bit on the ship. It did.
That's what I'm saying. Ship life was an improvement.
Ship life wasn't bad, man, on a frigate because you knew everybody. It sucked, but you knew everybody. So, I mean, honestly, looking back on it, man, I had a fun time with ship. I had some good friends, and I got friends that still keep in touch with me today, and friends that were by my side when I got accused of this bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go to both. I went to VBSS training after that for the ship, like the ship's VBSS, because then I was doing like aft lookout and forward lookout, which is different watch stations you have as undesignated. So after SAR school, they're like, hey, you want to go to VBSS school? So I was like, sure, which is, visit, board, search, and seizure.
Yep.
Excuse me. And we did that on the deployment too. We busted, those dowels down there with cocaine.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool. I was like, that's cool. And we had SEALs. There's like 2 SEALs teaching that class. I forgot their names, man, but they were teaching that VBSS class and like, hey, you should try out for SEALs. I was like, sure.
Active duty SEALs were teaching it?
I don't know if they were active duty or if they were.
They probably get DUIs.
Well, from what I know, DUIs don't get you kicked out of the teams. Neither DWIs or stuff like that.
Well, it might get you a little different duty station.
Maybe. Depends on the leadership, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So there's guys that have like 3 or 4 DUIs, and
Depends on your rank sometimes, too.
it depends on who you know. Politics, cards dealt, and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll try out for buds. And I was like, so what do you got to do for buds? Well, you need a 50 on your ASVAB. I'm sitting with a 37. So I was like, so I need to study. So I did the whole studying thing. They let me go up to, I was in Jacksonville after that because I was in Katrina too, right before Katrina came. And so I was in Jacksonville and I went to, I think it's Kings Bay, Georgia, retake the test, came down, made like a 53. I was like, yes. So then I met my officer. He was an ensign. He became my division officer for deck division, and he wanted to go to buds. So it was kind of fell into place, man. Like I started working out with him, doing it, and I was like, I'll go to buds. Took the screener. I was the guy who had I got to get Bates lights, man. That's what they wear. They wear Bates lights. So I wore Bates lights, wore boots. I'd be running on the beach. Everybody be out there in their swimsuits, and here's me, full camis on the beach in Jacksonville. Like, yeah. But now if I saw somebody doing that, I'm like, this guy's got something wrong with his mind. Or he's mentally unstable doing that. Like, which
I mean, there's that. You could look at it like that, or you probably increased your likelihood of graduation.
well, I probably have injury if running with Bates lights on my feet and stuff. Like
For sure.
destroying your feet.
Part of buds is injury.
It's
It's BUD/S small I.
But isn't part of buds also kind of managing it? Like you are the gray man, but you're not the gray man because you know when to skate and when not to skate.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
There's an art form for sure for navigating your way through, because you do want to perform well enough that you hit the radar, but not hit the radar in a way where they're actually going to pay attention to you too much.
yeah, and that's the same as green team, but you're automatically on the radar.
Pretty much. Well, yeah, especially since it's a 1-to-1 ratio most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think when I was there, I think it was like 3-to-1. So like when I was in the room, there was like 3 instructors just looking at me.
Yeah. That's right. That's a tough one. That's a pressure cooker that a lot of people have a very difficult time handling.
And especially if people don't like you or if there's, the gossip club or something, because they send out an email. What do you think of this guy? and so he's a shitbag. Well, he ain't coming this year's green team, but we'll get to that. And we're bouncing ahead, skipping forward.
Yeah, that's fine.
So. But went to Buds. Well, did that, passed everything, went off the Buds, class 265.
Yep.
I think I started off, not NDoc, but before NDoc, or NDoc with like 300 and something people, graduated Hell Week with like 56.
That's about right.
Something like that. Got a bunch of rollbacks.
Yeah.
And I think we finally graduated with like 36, 37 after pool comp.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So, yeah, and that was my Bud story. And after that is with the SEAL Team 1 and did a couple deployments there, got linked up. It was definitely, after leaving the fleet, I was in the fleet for about a year and a half. So definitely leaving the fleet, going to Buds and the whole thing, and then checking into Team 1 and the crew, those guys, the Team 1 I came back with, they just came back from Iraq. And so here comes me, a brand new guy thrown right into you probably heard, they called themselves the good old boys, and I was in SEAL Team 1.
This is probably 08?
This was 07.
Okay.
Yeah, 07, 08.
Okay.
Yep. So, a couple of guys you had on here were my new guys. You had my Master Chief on here too.
Yep.
You had, you know what I mean? So they all, Leif and all those guys. So I checked into that, and I checked into, Eddie was my older guy. And so it was definitely, being brought up around those guys, it was definitely a learning experience, man, because they did expect you to perform, Here I come in here all loud and everything, and they're like, bro, no, here's your 60, there's the ammo, and go out to Nyland, after we do the Goggins, course, the 60 course, then we come back inside, prep ammo and do IADs and all that shit, and know your place, know your role.
Yep.
And so it was definitely learning and experience, and you had to grow up fast, man, but it was fun. So
Team 1, and then what year did you decide you wanted to screen and go through Green Team?
Oh, it's like when you get into teams, man, that's the first thing people talk about is like, damn, Nick.
It didn't used to be that way, to be honest. I didn't know shit about it until right before I had screened, because when guys would go screen, if they were unsuccessful, well, actually, it didn't matter, right? Because there's two paths. Unsuccessful or successful, either way, they never fucking came back. So West Coast guys, when they left, God, I swear, and I might be wrong on this, but I swear they used to send them to SDV. So
some people like SDV.
And I'm not saying anything negative about SDV, but the guy who ends up at SDV via negatively selecting at Green Team did not volunteer to go to SDV. You know what I mean? So it could be the most amazing thing in the world, but they're landing in a place which was not their desired end state.
Yeah.
But you never heard shit. You never heard anything about it or what they were actually doing. And also, when I was growing up in the late 90s, or not growing up, I was growing up in the late 90s. Damn Nick wasn't doing anything either. Mm-mm. I mean, they were busy and they were still training at the level that they were at, but the opportunity for real world operations was almost zero.
Yeah.
So I think it was very different. And so it wasn't like that when I first got in. That's definitely a shift that I saw even in my time in.
Yeah. But the thing is too, is like guys that go and screen, even if they screen or they go to selection, they go to Green Team, they come back, they're looked at as a Green Team failure. Like, he wasn't good enough to make it a Green Team. Yeah. He's my LPO. But then you also get some guys that are like, well, I've been to Green Team. What do you know about SEAL Team 6? What do you know about CQC? Or I made it through jumping. I made it through Morena. What do you know about jumping? We did this in Green Team. It's like, okay, then why don't you teach us?
And also, Green Team is still just a selection. It's not like this, as you know, this dossier of new tactics and shit that they open. It's much like Buds. These are the very basic building blocks with which later in your career we're going to expect you to be able to create amazing things with.
It's tactics that you should already know, but you need to perfect them to be there. Like, not really so much perfect them, but you need to be more...
You have to show proficiency.
You have to have more essay,
situational awareness.
Yeah.
Green Team was like the opening of the door. There's a lot past the door, tactics-wise.
There's a lot just to get the Green Team,
Fuck yes,
too,
there is.
Which is, it's very political, and people right now are like, oh, you're saying, like, I guarantee you, SEAL Team 6 is watching this podcast right now, probably, or whenever they're watching, they're like, oh my God, he said Green Team, and they're going to say something.
I've said it before.
But
I think.
Yeah, but every time that I say something, they come out with leaking classified information. I think I've been accused now 5 or 6 times of leaking classified information.
By who?
By the command. By SEAL Team 6, by the Master Chief. And I'll get to that. And I keep skipping around because it's like, this is the first time I've ever talked about it on air. Like I've talked about it like on a couple podcasts, but it's
Yeah.
the first time I actually sat down one-on-one with somebody because people, this goes against their agenda. This is politically, it has some, it's has something sexual in nature, and it's like, but it doesn't. Like people see catfishing, nude pictures. Oh my God, like I'm going to stay away from it. You know what I mean? Like it takes time for somebody to realize, like right now, for me to come on here, is like, you probably heard when it first, like, holy shit, like this guy is getting accused of sexual naked pictures, boob pictures and stuff. Like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not saying you were, I'm not saying you weren't, but that's how some people's mindsets are. Is like,
Yeah.
And I've reached out to several, congressmen, congresswomen, everybody, and they're like, we can't get involved in that because it's sexually orientated or sexually, something to do with sexually. I'm like, it has
Are these individuals sexually active?
No, I don't know.
Point being, like, I would say, I mean, I have no math to support this, nor am I a statistician, but I think the vast majority of human beings are probably sexually active at some point in their life. It can be an uncomfortable topic depending on who you're talking about it with, but when you reached out to me, my initial thought was, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like, I try to have zero judgment about it when I look at that stuff, and just more curiosity about
Or is
what
it,
happened.
or did you get a spam call? You're like, man, it's Howard. He's catfishing me.
No, I had to look up what catfishing is. Dude.
I still don't know what a catfishing is, but so
But full disclosure, I looked it up before you reached out because my kids use the term,
yeah,
and this happens to me all the fucking time when I spend time with my kids. I'll have to like put in my notes of my phone terms that I have to fucking look up after they leave because God forbid I'm going to ask them.
I'm not gonna ask.
Yeah, I'm not going to look like an asshole in front of you guys, but I'm like, motherfucker, what is that term?
They played that show. I didn't know there was an MTV catfishing show, and they played that.
There is?
When I was in the brig, they played that
God.
constantly right there in front of my cells. Catfishing. It was on, that and Harry Potter. I read every single Harry Potter. Anyway, so I was,
Some could say that would be a good utilization of your time.
so right now I'm saying Harry Potter is pretty awesome. So
What's better, the books or the movies?
The books are always better, and we can get in the Game of Thrones with that too. Like Peter Dinklage, this is you know what I mean. Which so anyway, 2014 is when I wanted. 2013.
Okay.
so take that back. 2011 is when I wanted to screen for DevGru.
Okay.
Because we got this. Our SCA came in,
Senior enlisted advisor.
which he came in from Red Squadron, and we got oh my god, we got this guy from Damnick. He's a senior chief. He's gonna teach us and take us and do great things. Red Squadron. Holy shit. Come to find this guy's a total jerk off. But anyway, he kind of talked us into, hey, you guys should screen for DevGru. So we screened for DevGru. Me and a couple other guys go out to DevGru. I passed the whole initiation, the whole psych ward and everything where they bring you in, they sit down, and you know how it is, a selection process. You got the chiefs right there, and you got the yeoman chick.
Are you talking about the
screener.
initial screener? Yeah,
Yeah, we do the screener.
No, the classic horseshoe shaped desks, or not desks, tables, and you're in the middle, and like the little, what would it be, like a 7th grade desk with like the little fold down in fucking dress blues, and it's just
and you're making sure the whole time you spent the whole time making sure your ribbons are right, you gotta make sure your your insips were up to date and everything, and so you're like cool. So you're sitting there, nobody says anything, but you got probably the same person who interviewed you, the same person who's interviewing me, sitting over there at the end. None of these senior chiefs or anybody's talking. It's just that one civilian lady, and she's like, "Your stuff's not in order. What do you know about your sailor's creed?"
Man. So my experience heading there and your experience heading there, I'm going to say are very different.
It's 100% different.
So I didn't find it to be, when I went through, and again, I can only speak, and I try to be very clear about this with my military experience. I have a data point of 1. Mm-hmm. So I didn't find, I just submitted a package through my chain of command pre 9/11. It was all email traffic. And they showed up for the physical screener, and then the second thing I did, well, not the second, because you had to take that fucking bubble test, which might have been the first thing that we did.
Bubble test?
The psych test. I remember only one question from it, and of course you can't say yes or no. It's strongly disagree on one end to strongly agree on the other.
Yes.
And then it's like disagree, neutral. It's like, is the pole vault your favorite televised event? It's the only question.
Yes, I remember that.
That is the only question that I walked away from that with. And then when I went to my screener, it was 8s and 9s, so senior, well, actually probably 7, 8, and 9. So what would be in the Navy terms, the goat locker, the Chiefs mess, E7s, E8s, E9s. chief, senior chief, and master chief. But they were from each of the squadrons, and it was pretty back and forth with all of them. I received 0 admin questions, and it was more questions about mistakes I had made in my career up until that point, a la losing my Trident a few weeks after receiving it. How about
somebody you had on here recently took my Trident away before, so it was like the second time I've took my Trident away. But
but so it was very different. I would describe it as anything but political. And I was gone from the command well before you went through. I mean, I'd been gone for 8 years, so it's interesting to hear the difference in experiences.
It is. It's definitely different, man. It's all political, 100% political. Anybody that says it's not is lying, because they now obviously probably did it when you were doing it, but now they send out an email with everybody's name who's on their screening. And I got it when I was in there, and they sent it all around the command. Everybody, anybody who has access to Giant, Sipper, or whatever. Because you know how they have your little AOL chat line, you got your inbox. It's like, 2022 screener. Like, they're going to do it this year for the guy screening. Do you know Aaron Howard? Do you know Andy Stump? Tell us what you think of this guy. And
I think they did do that.
And somebody be like, that guy sucks. I don't want that guy here because he made me look better at, the O Court, whatever. Yeah. So they'll get that and be like, oh, okay, well, this guy sucks. And then they won't get you. Or be like, oh, I like this guy. So they'll do that. But then, too, is when I was in there going to that screener the second time, well, the first time in 2011, 2012, I got dropped. I made it to Shaw's, and I had a blue on blue. Like the last day of Shaw's, I had a blue on blue. It's going too fast. I was hot rodding it, hostage rescue. And
with Sims?
Yeah, with Sims.
Yeah. Blue on blue, for people listening, means you shoot one of your own people.
Yeah. And so they came in this way, miscommunication, dual entry, and I came in hot rod, and there was an active shooter in the middle, and here I come making calls, and I'm still making through Shaw's, and sure enough, one guy comes this way, and there's an active shooter, and I bust around the corner, and you're just like, oh, fuck, man, and you hear the rafters, did Howard just fucking have a blue on blue? And you're just the rest of the run, you're just like, unsafe, and you're just in the back, just kind of going to the foot, like I'm getting dropped.
Chicken or steak, window or aisle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or pretzels.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
Sure enough, and I came back 2 years later. I went back out 2014, screened again, almost got dropped the very first day again.
Really?
Well, so you know how you can draw in buds, you can draw cartoons, like
yes,
instructors, and we always would draw cartoon stuff, and we always make cartoons of whatever. So they're like, this is the time you can draw cartoons with us and stuff. Green team, it's just like buds. So of course, there's this one instructor that comes in, blonde hair, and everybody who knows what I'm talking about is this dude, man, had the biggest red nose. He looked like your Yeti cup, huge. I mean, like, there's no getting around it, man. It was gigantic. And so I'm like, and he was loud. He was always complaining, always bitching. And I ended up being in the squadron with this guy. And so he came in, and I was like, I'm going to draw a cartoon about this guy. So I got a picture of Johnny Bravo, and I got a picture of Santa, I got a picture of Rudolph. And so I drew Santa. I traced it. I mean, it was immaculate. I went back to my barracks room right there on base.
So it was a masterpiece.
It was a masterpiece. I took my time. And I drew Johnny Bravo with the biggest red nose. I mean, and I Sharpied it in. So I had the blonde hair and everything. This guy doesn't look like Johnny Bravo, but get the ideas. And I had Santa right there next to his sleigh and Rudolph with no nose. And Rudolph was doing like this. And Santa was like, hey, won't you get to this guy who I'm talking about? So won't you got my sleigh tonight? Because his big red nose was lit up. And so
I'm going to guess it wasn't received very well.
So I turned that in. And, the comics. And then there's this guy on the East Coast that we became good friends. He's like, bro. I was like, dude, look at this picture, man. They're going to laugh. The instructors are going to love me, man. They're going to be like, your sense of humor is immaculate. It's on point. Oh, man, dude. First round draft pick in the teams and the squadron. So he's like, bro, you know that he has a fake nose? I was like, I did not know that. He's like, yeah, I guess he was down there jacking with some random stray dog. And
it bit his shit off?
Bit his nose clean off. And so...
Yeah, I probably wouldn't take a comment like that, William.
His nose looks like you took Play-Doh out and put it on his face. That's what it looked like.
That's rough.
It is pretty rough. But
you think that they could do better?
And then an hour, after that, dude, I mean, almost an hour, I'd say, the door to the high bay. Have you been to the new compound and stuff?
No.
All this stuff?
Never set foot over.
So anyway, you know the old building,
Yep.
the Marcinko building, like right across from there, they built a new, high building for green team students, everything, new auditorium, all that shit, called it ST. But and so he comes kicking the doors, things open. He's like, Howard, you're fucking dead, and screaming all kinds of shit, and fuck you, and blah, he gets in my face, and he's like, who the fucks are you? Pushes me, and everything. I'm like, holy shit. Well, after that, man, like, they tried to drop me from that. He wanted me out of green team.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, didn't you say that? And like, they brought me up there. I got a counseling chit and everything for drawing that cartoon of him because I hurt his feelings. From then on out, man, they were always talking shit. Like, every single one was talking shit. But I made it. But even though they were talking shit, I still made it through.
Yeah.
Like,
It sounds like you were definitely a wanted man at that point, but if your performance is up to the standard or exceeds it, it'd be very difficult.
But but that's the thing is, I've seen them drop guys just like that, like for no apparent reason, like because you get the bottom 5, and that's where everybody gangs up like a bunch of cheerleaders, and like, oh, put him on the bottom 5 today, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, you're on the bottom 5 later. So and they would do that every weekend, do a bottom 5, and I don't know if they did it in the green team class too, but
let me see here. I remember doing peer evaluations. I don't think we did it every week. I think they solicited for it when we did it anonymously. I put my name on the eval sheet every time, though, because my theory is you should stand behind what you say.
Sure.
But what you're describing is real for sure. It's not the selection course at every place I've ever been, going through BUDS and then going back as a BUDS instructor. It is pure-ish.
Mm-hmm.
There's about a 10%, I think, that where it can come off the tracks and people can find themselves for right reasons or wrong reasons in that zone of you might actually get shit canned for things that you're not going to find anywhere in doctrine, if that makes sense.
100%.
It exists in BUDS too. You can get on the instructor's radar for reasons. Most of the time, I would say, in my experience, when I watched it happen, it was I'm glad the students ended up on the radar, but let's say they never quit, and they never failed, but they didn't graduate.
But it's kind of hard to end up on the radar on BUDS because basically, if you just
it depends on what you do.
That is true. That is true. I gotta give him that.
It depends on what you do.
That is true.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like I remember you putting us through BUDS too. The whole class was X5 and stuff. Was
kick that sucker in front.
When you and Dave Castro, or like we were in there with you, Drago, all those guys.
Second phase.
That's when I first learned about CrossFit, and I remember you being up there and explaining CrossFit on the whiteboard. I'm like, what the fuck is this dude talking about?
Exercise, bro.
It's like, we're going to do friend today.
This is our x-axis, the y-axis of your fitness.
And you're up there doing that. And like, what is he drawing all this stuff when you got the buckets that are never filled with water in the classroom?
They are never filled with water. It's a weird world, man.
It is a weird world. I don't think we didn't get jocked up because we made bets. We were betting class, and I think we had that one kid who ran 4 miles in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We took that bet, and I was like, 4 miles, and he did it, and he's like, if I can do it with shoes on. Come to find out, it was a track. He had a track scholarship, so he saved us from getting jocked up.
That would be the guy who you'd want to put all your chips on.
Yeah, but then we also bet, like, you remember instructor Kraft? You remember Kraft?
Yeah.
Where we bet him that he had to go get in the dip tank if he lost the bet. Well, he lost the bet and ran out there and jumped, but there was no water in the dip tank. Split his whole face open.
Yeah, and as the class, you're going to pay for that. Even though you won the bet, the students should have filled the dip tank.
Well, students should fill a dip tank, and then you got Drago running around there just screaming at you for no reason.
Takes all sorts of different kinds.
Students.
All right, so you're in green team.
So I'm in green team.
Make it through.
Make it through.
Day one, it's called, winning hearts and making friends. There's books about it.
I know, the draft comes out, in the dream team, like, what squadron do you want to go to? I'm like,
they didn't even ask us that.
I know what squadron I want to go to. Like, I'm going to be with all my buddies. They call it squadron, like, shit. They call it out, and all of a sudden they're like, Howard, blue squadron. I'm like, fuck, that's the one squadron I want to go to because they had a reputation of being assholes.
They did?
Yeah.
Fuck, man, shit has changed.
Like, nobody wants to go to blue.
They used to have the reputation for the most epic Christmas parties ever.
I don't know what
the Christmas parties at the command got shut down forever because of the epic nature of their parties.
Really?
Like, as a hypothetical, for full disclosure, I was not there for this, but I've heard many legendary tales about this incident. The team room tables, right? Massive. Covered in just fucking handle bottles of liquor. They used to have a secret Santa. And let's just say that, diversity of ethnicities and some of the Santa presents were very pejorative in nature and going directly after the ethnicities of said peoples.
They're not even ethnicities, the sexualities, the family, everything.
All of it.
No holds bars.
So apparently somebody grabbed a full unopened beer can and threw it at the dude who had given him their present, and it hits him squarely in the cock and balls, which doubles him over. He stands up after recovering with a dildo-headed golf club and just starts teeing off on all the bottles in the middle of his table to the point where like the fucking team room was ruined. Like beer cans inside of computer monitor screens and shit like that. Took him like 48 hours to clean the mess up, and then that was it. That was the reputation they had when I made through.
And the guy who I just drew the big nose about was in that squadron too, and he's going back to that squadron. So I'm like, this is gonna be an interesting time, man, because I've always been told that I got the resting bitch face. I'm like,
I've been told that too.
I'm like, okay, that's okay.
I've never been. I have never naturally been a super high or a super low person. It's kind of just like, let's cruise through it. Yeah, people are like, well, it's tough to read you. I'm like, well, I'm just fucking checking shit out. I don't know what you want me to be. I'm not like an animatronic.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert? I'm like, I don't know.
Yes.
What's your sign?
I say yes.
I'm a Scorpio. I don't like long walks on the beach.
I'm a donkey.
I don't like Whataburger. I'm from Texas. It's just like...
Yeah, it takes all types.
It does.
I find that it's easier to navigate most things if you avoid extreme highs and lows. I find like the kind of basically just baseline neutral is actually served me quite well. It might irritate other people, but it's not intentional.
And it's hard to find. It's hard to, if you're trying to get into that mindset, it's hard to be like that too, because I think it's just natural for me, man, just to be like, I do get high strung, but other than that, I'm just like,
yeah,
it's not funny. So I'm going to sit here and pretend to laugh.
Yeah.
So anyway, I go to Blue. So with the Christmas party and stuff story, the team rooms aren't like that anymore. Team rooms, they care more about how much money can they spend on their team rooms. Like there's a budget, right? So it's like, I couldn't even get, at SEAL Team 6, I was like, I want more PT shorts. We don't have any money. Well, that's because you just spent $9,000 on 5 different restoration hardware couches for a team room. You spent $10,000 on a gigantic Bones flag rug. We can use that money to go train. And that's where it kind of broke me off from the squadron stuff and from some of my peers too, because, and we'll get into that, but I go to Blue Squadron and everything's good to go. I'm a new guy. I'm like, holy shit. Then they try to find out what.
So is this 16 now? Because
14.
Okay, 14. So you first went in 12.
Yes.
Okay.
And I went 14. So this is October. We graduated October. So this is November of 2014. I'm like, boom, SEAL Team 6. I made it. I'm here, Call the wife, like, I did it, honey. We're here. It's great. Because you finally hit the pinnacle of your career. Because when I was through my generation, it's like, damn neck or not. Either if you go to damn neck, you're looked at as a badass. If you stay on the white side, you're kind of just either going through the motions. You'll never, climb the next ladder of your potential.
It's a really dangerous mindset, actually.
It is.
I look, a lot of people talk a lot of shit about SEALs who never saw combat, or it's like, they didn't see enough, right? Like there's always some way to put down your peers, right? So it becomes this, well, how many fucking dudes did you kill? Like, can you think of a more meaningless fucking metric ever? Like, knock that shit off and be like, what are you talking about, man? We fucking served in wartime. I'm like, hold on. Do you remember, like the instructors that put me through buds, guess how much combat they saw?
Probably maybe 1 or 2.
0. Yeah. Fucking goose egg. Because they happened to serve at a time where post, Vietnam, Grenada, Somalia, which had a total of 4 SEALs there, and fucking 9/11. I looked up to those guys and still do to this day. And they didn't see any fucking combat. But they put me through that training, and I remember going through training and looking at them and being like, holy fuck, these are the guys that I want to be. And now for people who say, well, if you didn't try to go to the East Coast, like you're just mailing it in, it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, first off, the East Coast is the East Coast weather-wise is inferior in every way to the West Coast. I say this having grown up on the West Coast, of course. But I also hate my fucking windows sweating at 5 o'clock in the morning because it's 300% humidity and 95 degrees. But, dude, that command on the East Coast is populated with and supported with by the dudes who are at the white soft, whatever you want to call it. And I don't mean that negatively at all, but you have to fucking have both. And it's not the right place for everybody. I'm sure saw this. Some people can shoot really good in the teams and other people suck.
It's like when I looked behind the curtain of Oz, which is SEAL Team 6, it's just another old man blowing smoke up your ass.
But that's behind every curtain
that
I've encountered in my life.
But the thing is, though, is most people haven't seen behind that curtain.
It's true.
I got thrown in. I got thrown into the curtain. And I ripped the curtain down. The curtain got raveled up into me, and I'm sitting here rolling around. And they're just like, caught with their dick in their hands. I guess is the old saying that you can say is just like, holy shit. But there was guys at Damn Neck still to this day that have never seen combat, but they're at the command. And the thing is, too, is like, I remember when I got there, it's like, going to combat deployment, and you talk about it. But the guys that when I was a new guy at, SEAL Team 6 at Booster, they're like, well, you haven't deployed or been to combat with DevGru. You haven't deployed and been to combat with SEAL Team 6. I'm like, combat is combat no matter how you look at it. Leadership changes, but it's some guy trying to kill you, and you try to maneuver or flank or do your best tactics, stick to the basics to not get killed and protect you and your buddies back and win the firefight. But that mentality they got there right now is like, well, we're at Damn Neck, fuck the white side. But then when you go to the white side, it's like, fuck Damn Neck, we're not Damn Neck. Like when the half shells came out, that's when the first time the half shells came out is our generation, and everybody wanted a half shell because Damn Neck had a half shell. I had the fucking Starship Trooper helmet with the fucking.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I still have that thing, but you would know people from DevGru, and they'd give you half shell. And you show up with a half shell, or you show up with your sleeves cut off on the wide side. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? We're not DevGru, we're not Damn Neck. So put your shit back on, put your fucking bug helmet back on, your Spaceballs helmet back on, and go out to an island and do IADs and eat Caesar's shitty food, who's still there.
Is he really?
Still there. Eggs, bro, eggs, bro, eggs. It's always the same thing. You show up as cold cuts. No matter what, the first meal you eat is cold cuts.
For sure.
And this is like, God, but
it's an unhealthy divide.
It is.
I don't know how you fix that.
You can't fix that, man. With the leadership and everything that's so divided right now, and the way it is, you won't be able to fix that, man. Even if you do try to fix it, you might just fix it just a little bit for a little short amount of time, but it'll come right back because nobody, at the end of the day, nobody really cares. I mean, like for instance, the leadership is so bad, man. Right now, like you put me through Buds, right? Mm-hmm. You don't remember putting me through Buds.
I remember your class.
You don't remember how I was in Buds. No. You know what I mean? But you do leadership seminars and stuff too, right? So you do. So what do you do at your leadership? What do you talk about at your leadership seminars when you do leadership? Like I know you just had one with.
Basically, just like make shit up. Sounds good. I go on Google and just you should do a good job. And
no, I know. I was about to be like, I know what you go, but what do you actually say? You know what I mean? Like, what do you believe? What do you think? What do you believe that you think that you're doing? I know you're a leader. You went from enlisted officer. So what do you think as a leader? What do you think that you're trying to portray? What do you want to get out of doing these seminars?
I want to pass along knowledge that I was fortunate enough to gain from other people. My experiences in the SEAL teams were very formative in my life.
Is it just what you learned in SEAL teams or in life in general?
Well, now that I have time away from the SEAL teams, right? So when I first got out of the military and I would speak, it would be much more SEAL team heavy because that's the context that I was and the lens that I was largely viewing the world through.
Sure.
I had spent more time in the military than out at that point. Now I have the ability where I can take, to me, first you got to define leadership. So, depending on what the audience is, I try to, at least find the terminology that's going to resonate with them. But then I break it down largely into the fundamentals of what we're looking for from a leader inside of the SEAL community, and then the actual characteristics that we should be in theory screening for. Now, again, I can lay those things out to any organization. And oftentimes I think it makes sense and it works because they're probably hearing a lot of the same stuff, but it's from an external source, right? Because you can't, being a prophet in your own land is a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have banking industry as an example of an industry I've spoken in. They could have somebody internal to their Fortune 500 company come up and say exactly those same things, and people would just be like, "What? What happened? Are we done with the slideshow?" And then I'll come up there and say largely the same thing, probably a different way of getting to the end state, or different words, or carry myself differently, or deliver it differently, and it resonates. But it's very basic shit, and the SEAL community did not create it. It was instilled in them at some point, and I think it was probably more instilled in people who have a profession of arms, probably back from the times of the fucking Romans and Greeks. Like, it's not a rocket surgery. But now I have the ability to take the lessons that I learned in the military and apply them to a more entrepreneurial, capitalistic setting, as opposed to just being military based.
So, Kevin, so are you doing it at and as a realist and somebody's asking blunt questions, so you are doing it obviously for money as well too, correct? I mean, you have to.
Correct. I don't volunteer my time.
Exactly.
Actually, I take that back.
If you're
I do volunteer my time often if it's like a government agency. Like, I've done stuff here locally with firefighters or fishing. Like, I will always bend over backwards to do it, but
Absolutely.
I charge a premium for the service.
Anything you're good at, you shouldn't do it
Correct.
for free, especially if you're civilian wise. When's the last time you went to a BUD/S graduation?
I've never been to one other than my own.
When's the last time you talked to a SEAL platoon, like actual sat down and talked to a SEAL platoon recently? Like,
Never been invited to. So it's not something that I could spearhead my way into. It would have to be something that I would have to be invited into that setting.
Well, as a leader, why don't you push yourself into trying to get into that? Like, I get the aspect of making money and trying to do Fortune 500 companies and making, but you talk at like, I'm not trying to do this in a bad way or look at anything too. It's just like, I hear a bunch of guys talking about leadership and what they did in the SEALs and back when I was in this or back when I did that as a SEAL or officer, and this is what you should do as life and what you should do in your company or as a CEO.
So all those things you just described, I do not do. I tell zero stories other than when I am talking about mistakes that I personally made and the lesson that I learned from it. And not only the lesson I learned from it, but what leadership around me at that time, how they were able to help course correct me in what they did to do so. But
And I'm not saying that you, I'm not, I'm just not, but I'm just giving an open, broad thing.
Yeah,
I'm, not
for
saying
sure.
I'm just talking about like in general. And so, and then you look on TV and you see stupid shit like pulling out of Afghanistan, or now with these SEALs trying to use the religious exemption to get out of the COVID shot and stuff. And then,
which is tough to judge from the outside. Maybe some of them
it is tough to judge. On that though, I see both sides of it, and I'm not, I don't judge men, but then again, it's like whoever it is, at the end of the day, Uncle Sam owns you. If it's so, why don't you do a religious exemption on the flu shot or the, what's that little shot you put in there? Your skin bubbles up.
Oh, that's a test. I think that's the tuberculosis test.
Well, regardless, the fact is like if they didn't say it's mandatory, say hey, you got to take this COVID shot to deploy, people would take it. I remember trying to deploy, and they're like, you're not up on dental. You have to get a dental clinic, or you're not deployed. You don't see me being like, but then again, it's like I see both sides. So it's like,
and it's a tough one because I don't know any of those people nor their circumstances, so I can't pass
exactly.
judgment.
Neither can I. So that's what I'm saying. It's like it's your body, your choice. But then again, it's like you signed that dotted line, dude. So it's just like, where do you go from there, and how they navigate it? I don't know, man. So
I'll be curious.
So why don't as a leader and stuff too, you should seek responsibility, take responsibility. So a lot of people too, and I know it's why don't you email and talk to the SEALs and enlighten this generation? You know what I mean? Because I think that to some extent, and I'm gonna say it, I'm not doing any hey motherfuckers here or anything like pointing fingers, but like Jocko, for instance, he failed me in leadership, and he need the responsibility in some aspects. You failed me in responsibility and leadership because. Look at what the leaders are doing now. Leaders that like Jocko put through JOTC are leaders that did what they are doing to me, what they did to Eddie, what they're doing to Keith, and what they're doing to like several other SEALs that hadn't even been hit the radar that is beyond fucked up more than my shit or Eddie's shit that I found out about. Why don't y'all put yourself back in the community, talk to a BUD/S class, enlighten future SEAL leaders? You always talk about what I did in the SEAL teams, how I did this, how I did that. Well, why don't y'all pass that knowledge on to the SEALs coming up? Why don't you pass it on to us? Why don't you speak at a SEAL graduation? Why don't you talk to a SEAL team? Well, I've never been invited. Well, why don't you reach out and I'm not saying that there's plenty of reasons.
I mean, it's a fair point.
It's like, well, hey man, I'm Andy Stumper. I'm Jocko. Hey man, I would really like to speak about this to enlighten future officers, because officers that I've had several good officers, but then I've had shit officers.
Same.
And they've gone through Jocko's JOTC. They've gone through BUD/S 265 class.
Do you think that a trident or a course that you go through is what defines you as a human being?
No.
Okay. So I would be careful leaning on those things.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, you could go through, let me tell you right now, you could be a shitbag officer, and I know of them. And it wasn't Jocko's JOTC course. I think at the time it was Leif's. But they know how to navigate those systems, and they do the absolute minimum possible, and they show you the absolute minimum possible so they can skate through that system unknown. And it doesn't change them. So yeah, they were a graduate of the course, but it doesn't change the person at the end of the day.
And I'm not saying that it totally all fell and wiped out. I'm just saying it's like, I'm just really, I guess, taken back by the leadership that I saw, that an officer, a flag officer, ripped up my uniform. A flag.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
an 04, not an 05, but a captain of SEAL Team 6, Bravo 01, shredded my uniform. Like, that is shitty leadership, wherever you look at it, hands down. And
it's a shitty person.
And we have proof.
Yeah. But I think
captain.
For sure. And so what is a captain? Is that an 06?
06 flag officer.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what everybody wants to shoot. If you don't
I thought 07 was where the flag officers started.
No, it's a captain 06.
Okay.
Flag,
Flag would be a one-star admiral in the Navy for people listening.
Unless I'm wrong. So I from know as the captain's the first flag officer, and then it goes to.
Either way, we're talking one pay grade, and they're at an elevation in the rank hierarchy. It's hitting fucking high.
Hitting captain is like hitting chief for enlisted almost. I guess because you got senior chiefs and it keeps going on from there.
I would be cautious. From what little I know of the experience you had exiting the military, it sounds like it's horrendous.
I exited within 15 minutes after a 17-year career, shut down. So,
and I get it, but what I'm saying is that flag officer, the captain who tore up your uniform.
Yep.
Okay. That's indicative of that person. You know what I mean? This is one thing that I think, and I try to talk super openly and honestly about this. The best leaders that I ever served with, that I've ever been around in my life, were in the SEAL teams. And the worst ones that I've ever had any exposure to include fucking firing them on the battlefield, were in the SEAL teams. But neither of those groups of people represent the community as a whole. You know what I mean? Because there are going to be people who have more amazing experiences than negative, and they'll be like, this fucking SEAL teams are perfect. And they're not. And then there's going to be people who have more negative experiences than positive. And they're going to say, or could say, the leadership in the SEAL community is completely and utterly fucked up. But it's not. It's the leaders that are fucked up that are the problem, that need to be addressed. Leadership is a tool. It's like your M4. Leadership's a tool. There's people that can fucking do amazing splits with an M4 and people who barely know the working end of that fucking rifle.
No, I agree with that. The thing is, like, you got those guys who can build a rocket ship but don't know how to fly it.
Correct.
Which I can do neither or. It's like, but it's why, if preaching on it and saying the SEALs is this and SEALs is that, why not go back to your roots and help out the SEALs and help out the future leaders and help out why get out we all have problems, of course, medically, family-wise and stuff, but still, it's like, you talk about it and you talk about the brotherhood, like, long live the brotherhood, which this isn't.
I'm not a particular fan of that term, to be honest.
And again, it's like, there's a lot of people like, oh, fuck him. He's talking about brotherhood. Just keep an open mind here with what I'm saying is, like, there is no brotherhood. You have your cliques. You got your 3 or 4 friends who stick by you no matter what, but there is no brotherhood. Like, all SEALs don't look out for each other, man. And I found that out the hard way. Like, for instance, and I'm not trying to bash on any of your friends' reliability, trustworthiness, anybody's. And I know how people are very sensitive these days, and people take stuff as, I don't really give a shit. It's like, if you were to get in a pinch right now, put yourself in my situation. If you, any stuff, were to get in a pinch right now, do you think people would be throwing rose petals out for you as you walk in the courthouse? You think everybody would support you? No. You think they did? You'd see who you can. It's basic tactics. He who flanks first wins the fight. He who has a high ground does this. Well, I set up an L ambush to kind of pin. It's fucked up. I guess you can see it, but then again, it's like I had to do that to see who was on my side because I was getting blasted from all areas. So I basically set up an L ambush to see who would squirt, and sure enough, everybody squirted. As soon as I got accused, I was a leopard. I mean, it was just like, there is no brotherhood. The friends I've known for 16, 17 years, went to combat with multiple times, you know, I love you, bro. Going to Danny's and dancing up on the bar with your fucking shirt off and crying over the pictures, and I fucking like getting in fights in PB and then doing all this shit. And all of a sudden it's like, hey man, can you testify for me? I can't, man. I got a family. I'm about to make chief. Like I had a real good buddy who was in, you know, I've known for a couple of years, but I also had another buddy who I knew for, 17 years. And when I asked them to testify for me, they said no. One said because, I just had a kid and I'm about to make chief and I don't want to get involved. Other one said the same thing. I got a family. Before I came on this podcast, before I got on a flight, somebody called me. Hey man, they think I'm ratting right now. Like they think I'm going to come in here and rat and spill the beans. And
Who's
like,
they?
People from the command, teammates. They still, my number hasn't changed. And so they called me, some of my teammates, two of them. It's like, hey man, nothing was personal. Like we didn't know what was going on. And just remember, man, and it always ends with nothing was personal and I have a family. Well, when you mess with my kids, it becomes personal. I had a family too. When you mess with my career, it does become, career's not so much, but when you mess with my family, it becomes personal. And it's just like, whatever you said and whatever you testified for, that's on you, man. Like, I'm trying to clear my name because if you Google my name right now, Aaron Howard, Navy SEAL, it comes up catfishing, sexting, slexting, whatever, cyber hacking. They made me seem like I was some kind of Edward Snowden, Julius Assange. Like, I was helping out those guys. It was ridiculous the way they painted me.
Yeah.
That people don't even know about. Like, the whatever, we all know, whatever's put in the news, whatever's in it is just bullshit. The very first couple Navy Times articles came out were legit and they were actually truth. And those reporters got fired for writing about my case. And Carl Prine did, and he just rewrote that one that, the Black Rifle Copy Company that he did for me. And so now that we got that and all this stuff out with leadership stuff, 2017, this was, let me take it to go back in time. Let's get in our DeLorean and go back in time.
Yeah, well, it helps to break it down sequentially too.
Yeah, so enough catching up on stuff like that. So 2017, man, I'd say around September time frame, my kids were going to be born. They're going to be born in November. I had twins on the way. And so we were going to get ready to get deployed, do all the whole workup and stuff. And I get brought in by my, master chief, my troop chief, and the command master chief. And they wanted me to deploy early.
At this time, were the squadrons separated into their own commands?
Yeah, they've been like, they got blue, red, gold, silver.
So when I was there, they were just squadrons, but it was all underneath one umbrella. And that's why I ask.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So they moved out of the old compound where the more single bit, and they got that whole new compound. Yep. It's infinite hallways. Like you walk in there, it's just a hallway. It's just a long hallway, man. You're like, what the fuck? I had a skateboard. And
Why wouldn't you? Surprised it wasn't a one wheel.
Well, I had a hoverboard too, and I'd hoverboard around.
Awesome. Have you seen the video of Mike Tyson on a hoverboard?
No, I have not, but
it's worth a Google. Let's just say he doesn't ride it well.
I feel not very well about accusing Mike Tyson of anything because
I feel like I can outrun him.
I think I can outrun him, but I don't think I can outdodge him. If he gets older.
Very, very true.
Yeah, I don't want to be on Mike Tyson's bad side, but I would like to fight Jake Paul. Imagine, but anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole different rabbit hole.
He can knocked out or not. If you put me in front of him, I'll start swinging it.
Sure.
Hey, we can make money. I don't do it for money. Put it towards a charity, but that will never happen. But anyway, you could say you built up a Navy SEAL from SEAL Team 6.
If you wanted to.
Yeah.
People would be underwhelmed at what that actually means, though.
He's a hand-to-hand combat expert, which nobody in the teams knows how to fight except for maybe like 5% of people.
Except for the dudes who actually pursue it in their own off time.
Exactly. We don't know how to hand-to-hand combat knife fight. The shit you see on TV is not true. But anyway.
Accurate. Hallway of death.
Hallway of death.
Actually, you described it as infinite hallway.
It is an infinite hallway. It just keeps going. It's like you make and go to another hallway. But so my kids are about to be born, and they wanted me obviously go on this deployment. And so I was like, hey, no, I'm not going on deployment. My kids are born. I will go on the second half deployment. So I'll stay back, after New Year, go out. Well, who's my troop chief? Who you probably know who is. Everybody knows.
I know who he is. I don't have a relationship with him or much interaction with him at all.
Yeah, so there's no need for much of an interaction, but was the Master Chief of SEAL Team 6 that time. He was my squadron Master Chief, and he was this, the Command Master Chief after that with my incoming Troop Chief. And so I told them that I am not going on deployment, man. I was like, I want to be here to see my kids born. I will come after deployment. Like, Would we have some offs and stuff lined up? Sure. Like, is it anything that I need to be on? Like, will I make a difference? Granted, I was a breacher, tandem bundle, but last time we ever pushed a bundle in the combat, I don't think ever.
I know the CAD guys have one time, like in the initial invasion of Afghanistan, but yeah, that's a use with extreme caution, if ever.
Jumping is now.
Yeah.
Anytime you have jumping brought up, it's extreme caution.
As it should be. Shit's dangerous.
It is. And then they don't know what to do with the parachutes. They just drop a JDAM on there, and then they freak out about money. It's like, we can't do it because we just spent.
What's the cost of a JDAM?
What's the cost of 33 parachutes?
Less than a JDAM, I bet.
Well, that one op that went on, they jumped in and they left all the parachutes there. It's like, well, what are we gonna do with these parachutes? And then the whole higher echelon was just, I just can't believe we spent that much money. It's all about money there. It's all about money at that command. Like, the more money you spend, the more, and you waste it, the more eyes they get on. It's like, holy shit, you just spent all that money on jump.
That to me seems like it would be a justifiable expense, though. Like, fuck. The budget there, I'm sure you can move left or right a little bit and figure out a way to cover the cost of 33 MJNs.
Dude, you got all kinds of money. You got deployment money, you got hair money, you got, anyway. But I told him I'm not coming. So when I said that I'm not going on deployment, I will stay back, was like, well, you can't do that. You'll be labeled a traitor, a coward. And yeah, no, you're deploying. I'm like, I'm not deploying. Like,
did you have any conversations with him about it leading up to this? Like, hey guys, my wife's pregnant.
They knew my wife was. They knew she was pregnant. They knew that. They knew I was transparent with them fully. Like, you have to be. Like, if not, then it throws a wrench out of the thing because I was tandem bundle, I was a sniper, I was all that thing, and taking one person out of a fire team does affect the whole team.
For sure.
No matter who it is, they knew it, and they didn't like it. That stayed back. So I was like, y'all preach and everything about family and stuff, but for some reason, when I say I'm staying back because I want to see my kids born, y'all just blow a gasket. Sure enough, they left. I stayed back. My kids were born. I was labeled. I got threatened with court-martial. I got threatened with being a traitor. I got threatened to be with a coward. They were just pissed at me. It's always been pissed at me. And
how are things up until that point? Like, how would we're talking about like a 3-year run, it sounds like, at the squadron before then?
About a 4-year run.
Yeah, how were things going?
Fine. I mean, I'm not the best.
Same.
Still, I'm not the best jumper. I'm not the best shooter. Definitely not the best sniper because I've been with guys that, 1 or 2 shots and they're get somebody with me, it's like,
oh, dude, I can run through a magazine like a motherfucker on a bolt action.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, we're not being a Navy SEAL sniper. You're not a master sniper. It's like,
if you want me to hit it first round, then just give me 1 bullet. But you gave me a little magazine with 5, so I feel like I need to use them all.
And I'm gonna shoot all around you until I hit you. So it's like everything was fine. I thought everything was fine because I got the teammates. We're deployed. We're going to Easter parties with each other. We're hanging out with family members. I didn't ask, like I'm saying, they put me in for Sailor of the Year. Like, I didn't ask to be put in for Sailor of the Year, and I got picked out of the whole squadron. And by any means, anybody knows, I am not the most squared away. I have the least military bearing out of everybody, like probably besides one person who he was getting pinned to chief and he didn't get a haircut, so he went downstairs and cut his hair in a bucket. And then came back up and his whole hair was chunked out and he put it in a ponytail.
I mean, I kind of respect that, but
100% respect that, man. But I thought there was nothing special about me, man. And I think the TLs that I had at the time hooked me up. And now what I know now is and I got promoted to chief. I did the LPO, the whole shit, and then chief, whatever.
So what he's talking about for people listening is there's mandatory career wickets that you have to hit to ascend both the officer and enlisted rank. So enlisted rank at E6, you're going to do your LPO, leading petty officer, which is a mandatory have to make E7. Like your record's getting swept off the table if you don't have it.
And plus, if you do your LPO on the white side, it counts. But if you do your LPO, you got to go. If you go to DAMNEC, you got to do DAMNEC's LPO. You got to be their LPO. So I got to be
different.
Yeah, so you got to be a squadron LPO or a troop LPO to make chief.
Gotcha.
If you didn't do it in the white side, you could do in the white side, but it didn't count.
Gotcha.
So, and I hate saying the term white side. If you're not in DAMNEC,
it's a common term though, and I know you don't mean anything negative by it. I get it.
The regular teams, tier 3 teams, I guess you can say. That sounds worse, but
yeah,
it's all the tiers. Tier 1 is money, but anyway, I thought everything was fine, man. Like, everything was good to go. Like, I had no clue. And when I stayed back from deployment, I was like, okay, well, if they come at me, which somebody told me, it's like, man, this command will ask for everything from you and give you nothing in return. So just be careful. And everything was fine, man, from what I thought. And then after I said that and I stayed back, they left. Within 2 weeks, all of a sudden, I get hit with sexual harassment allegations. I'm sitting on the couch. It's like 5:30 at night. I get a phone call. My squadron has already deployed. And so I'm staying back with my, twins, 3-week-old twins. I'm sitting here. I get a phone call, and they tell me to come into the command. I'm like, I'm not on alert. And the squadron's deployed. I was like, one or two things could happen. Like somebody died, or they need me for, I don't know what's going on. That's the only other option I could think of. So sure enough, I'm like, I got to go into command. So I drive up to, I lived about 5 minutes away from the gate. I lived over there in Red Mill and stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's where I
literally,
used to live too.
it was like right there. And so I did the whole thing, and you go through 15 gates until you get there. And I pull up to the high bay, man.
Swing that mic in front of your face.
And yes, instructor stump. But
It's Hoo-yah, instructor stuff.
that's a J for jocked up. But I go into the high bay, man, and I got one of my, sister. I got a troop chief there, and I got an old troop chief there. And he's like, hey, man. I was like, what's going on? And like, well, we can't tell you. They never told me what was going on, man. It was like pulling teeth. And finally, they're like, hey, we need to talk to you, and go upstairs. So I go upstairs, and I go into the conference room. I walk down an infinite hallway, get to the conference room, open the door, and there's a captain in there, and then there's a master chief in there, and then they wouldn't let the troop chief that was with me go in there because I was like, hey, can he be in here with me? What's going on? They're like, no, he can't. So I walk in, it's at the table, just, a little bit longer than this, and it's got the, chairs and TVs and stuff, just an empty conference room. And they just start asking me random fucking questions, man. Like, are you a tandem bundle master? Have you ever jumped anybody? I'm like, what is this about? And he's like, we'll get to that. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the captain. They sent a captain to do a PI. So if you know, a preliminary inquiry is basically where the CO picks an officer out of who has no legal background. That's like telling me, hey, I need you to go investigate this guy and see the details. I have no legal background. I don't know anything about legal. Nothing. You have the right to remain silent. It's about like all I know. So they pick a random person with no experience, but he's a captain, to investigate me on allegations of sexual harassment. But he never asked me anything about sexual harassment. They just go on this rant about, have you ever eaten at Chipotle?
Fuck yes.
Like, and I can pull it up right here on my computer. Like, you ever eaten at Chipotle? Like, what's it like tandem with somebody? I'm like, what's going on here? May I ask what's going on here? And I always got the response of, we'll get to that. I'm like, okay. And so as I'm sitting there, man, like they got these stacks of paperwork and stuff. I'm just like, what's going on? Finally, after pulling teeth for like an hour, they slide me an MPO, which is a military protective order. It's the same as a restraining order or something like that. It's like, you're being accused, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to say the girls' names on here as much. People know who they are, like, and we'll get to that. Like, I've been to actual victims therapy groups, and these girls are saying that they're victims when they're not. And when the time does come, and my case does get overturned, these girls, they're doing a disservice to people who are actually victims. But anyway, I was like, sexual harassment from who? And they said, this girl right here. I was like, well, what is she saying I'm doing as far as sexual harassment wise? And they couldn't tell me. They never told me what was going on. That's all they said. After like 3 hours of me sitting in there, it's now like 8:30. That's all I got of that entire thing. And I was like, well, what happens next, man? Like, I just literally sat in here, and you and this other clown, other clown, who I don't want to give the justification of naming his name, is that nothing was going on. And so the MPO saying that, stay away from this person from, for 30 days, XYZ. So I looked at the MPO, and I'll pull it up for you. I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I was like, looked at the date. It had expired by a year. So they gave me the MPO December 7th, 2017, and it expires January 7th, 2017. So it's expired by a year. The CO didn't sign it. Nobody signed it. And they gave it to me. I took that and I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm getting accused of sexual harassment. It's now 8:30 at night and I get kids. So what do? I called a Squadron buddy of mine and he's like, bro, meet me here and we'll talk about it. So this is now like 9 o'clock at night and I drove over and met him at the track supply right over by my house. And he's like, dude, get a lawyer, man. Like, doesn't matter. Get a lawyer, defend yourself, especially because now that was the time of like Me Too was like almost not at its pinnacle, but it was still pretty
On the radar for sure.
100% on the radar.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'll get a lawyer. Absolutely. Well, I'll go talk to a lawyer first. So I went and talked to a lawyer and he's like, dude, this MPO is expired. You know, this is garbage. Like they can't do that. Like, because the next morning I found out who this girl was. And of course I looked up on the command phone book and I was like, it's a nutritionist at the command. I was like, I don't know that. I know that she's at the command, but I don't know her like that. So obviously I look up on the command phone book and I was like, called her and I was like, hey, who are you and why are you accusing me of this? Like, what did I do to you sexually? Like, I know you from like the West Coast. I know you from out here. And of course I go do like the, you know, the cryo freeze and I go do the hot cold tubs because of the command. They got this whole therapy set up where you can do.
They were building that as I was leaving.
Yeah, you can do, you know, whole everything you need to, you know, needled, whatever, chiropractor and stuff. Yep. So of course I did that. And she was always over because where she worked, but it was all no like interaction, no nothing, man. It was just, you know, strictly work, platonic, professional and everything. It's like, well, they're saying that you're doing this to me.
Who's they?
Which is why I was like, who's they? Anyway, I hung up. So right after I hung up, she calls the quarterdeck, the legal office says, hey, you know, Aaron Howard just called me and he just violated this MPO. And that's when, you know, shit went south. It was like,
Did you realize you were violating the MPO by calling her?
Yeah, but I wasn't violating the MPO because I was like, I'm not the brightest man or the brightest crayon in the box, but I know this is invalid because it's expired by a year and nobody signed it. So I guess I took it on my own initiative to make a phone call. Should I have, you know, sought legal advice before I did that? Sure. Me calling her, was that the right idea? No. But I was so angry and I was emotional. It's the woe is me thing. It's like, I didn't give a fuck. I'm going to call her and be like, who the fuck are you? Accuse me of this.
So her response was, they are saying you're doing these things to me?
Yeah. The thing is, too, is like, I keep everything, like, since that happened, since I talked to my buddy, he's like, dude, record everything.
Oh, for sure.
And so, of course, I recorded her conversation. I recorded the conversation I'm about to talk to you next. Everything that we try to use in this court-martial record, the judge was just like, nope. Hey, everything. We couldn't use everything. Like every evidence that we had, he just, whatever, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it was SEAL Team 6. Everything was classified, like everything. But what people don't know is my case was open to the public. You can get on, do a FOIA request right now, Freedom of Information Act, and pull up my entire case. And anybody who talks to me, I give them my case. I give them my transcripts. I give them all the notes with everybody's name. I'm not, like in the article, it says like stuff's been leaked and everything. I'm giving people stuff. Because it's all open source. Everything is not classified. It was all open to the public. So, and they leaked my name first. So like Aaron Howard, SEAL Team 6, you know, operator accused of sexting salacious nude pictures with, you know, nipple piercings and all this random shit, which is, if you look at all the Navy Times articles and all the articles, they change each time. So like the first one was sexting and salacious. And the next one was like, you know, raunchy pictures. And the next one was like, you know, impersonating a person. Then it was catfishing. And so it like changed 4 different times because there was nothing there. And so after I called in the lawyer and stuff, I came back. It was a Wednesday, came in a Friday. And what I didn't know is I didn't have experience with lawyers at that. You know, you go overseas and you do an op, or, you know, a gunfight goes down, you got to do a shooter statement or something. That's like the only interaction I have with a JAG or like NCIS and stuff like that. And so I came the next day, and the first person I was approached by was he's like, hey, did you get a lawyer?
Oh, he wasn't on deployment?
No, he's never finished deployment. He's never fully finished deployment. He's the most risk adverse. He has more blue on blues than anybody does at the command. And I am hey motherfuckering him because he put me in jail and he lied on the stand. And there needs to be an accountability from leadership. Him and he needs to hold himself accountable. Needs to hold himself accountable. An 06 who shredded enlisted person's uniform needs to be held accountable. who had, and we'll get into all this stuff too. I know people are saying that always leaking names and stuff, but like we were talking before, is nothing's classified. Names aren't classified. They tried to make their names classified in my case, but it didn't work out so well. So I came the next day, talked to a lawyer, like, hey, did you get a lawyer? I was like, yeah. And why he stayed back from employment, I don't remember, just probably because he's always looking for a good deal or something like that. He's like, why? I was like, well, because I'm getting accused of sexual harassment, man, and y'all brought me in here and gave me an MPO, and y'all are saying I violated the MPO, but the MPO was never valid because it wasn't signed. It's expired, and it's just, you know what I mean? And you even spelled the, girl's name wrong. So it's invalid. Even the lawyer I talked to said it was invalid, but when you talk to a lawyer and obviously like, yeah, I want you to be a part of my case and retain you, they're going to notify the command. Oh, hey, I represent Aaron Howard. And so he sent that email out, and that's how they found out I got a lawyer. And after that, man, it just started getting fucking weird. Like that same day, a couple hours later, comes to me again. He's like, hey, man, Ski wants to talk to you, which is, Master Chief of SEAL Team 6. I'm like, about what? And he was like, well, he just wants to talk to you. So obviously he came down from, and pulled me into the Squadron Master Chiefs at Blue Squadron's office. And he's like, what's going on? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, why'd you get a lawyer? There's rumors you got a lawyer and stuff. I was like, because y'all are accusing me of sexual harassment. And he's like, well, that you just, deserted a deployment. And like, yeah, because he's a coward. And I'm getting it from both. And I had this recorded too. It's like, and I wanted to use this in my trial. And that's the whole basis of the, UCI, which is, unlawful command influence. But we couldn't use this recording because the judge was like, no, like everything with evidence, he just ruled it out.
Is it because you didn't inform them that you were recording?
It's just because of UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, and the judges, they do whatever they want to. The military law, they do whatever they want to, man. It does. You saw it in, Eddie's case. You saw it in Keith Berry's case. They do whatever they want to, man. If you get rolled up into the UCMJ or you get accused of something, that's it, man. Either you fight for your life and you go broke and you keep fighting, or you're going to prison. And that's the truth of it. That is true. There's no gray area, and the UCMJ doesn't work. It doesn't. Like,
do you think you'll ever be able to allow those recordings to see the light of day?
Yeah.
My only concern would be that, and again, I don't know the legalities of recording conversations with people.
So in Virginia, only one person has to have consent to recording.
Can that be the person who is doing the recording?
Yep, I am consent.
Even if it's on a government installation that prohibits that?
Well, the thing about it is, too, is like what's not recorded on government installation. So I pulled all the stuff that has been recorded. They record everything there. And so we did a Brady discovery, and, and we got all that stuff. Like, there's everything. They have cell phone sniffers in there.
Yeah. But also, isn't that part of the deal working for the government?
It is. But the thing is, too, is like you can record, but not in non-record. Like, I never recorded in a SCIF, I guess you can say. I guess the Master Chief's office was a SCIF, but it's not really classified because they know that I recorded it. And I told them I was recording it, and we brought it to the judge saying we have these recordings. So it's like...
Yeah, I don't know the legalities around it.
And the thing is, too, is like they can say that, like right now, they can be like, oh my God, well, he recorded stuff in the command space and stuff. Well, who doesn't have their phones in there? You have Nipper computers in there.
Which is a non-classified internet.
Which I've seen people order Domino's from the quarterdeck Nipper, like, SEAL Team 6 quarterdeck's in North Carolina. How may I help you, sir, ma'am? Oh yeah, can I get a large pizza? Like I've seen people do that. I've been on watch.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't tell me about leaking classified stuff. You know what I mean? Or you're not supposed to have stuff in there recorded. You're supposed to put on airplane mode, but dudes have Apple Watches and the Androids, and you're not going to not have your phone in there. But I had, on a recording device, just a plain old college recording device. If it's legal, I don't know. If it's illegal, I don't know. Well, come after me, and I'm going to throw the whole book of everything I have, and then we'll go toe-to-toe. Because now I'm in a civilian court, and I can use this.
Are you sure?
I don't know. Come after. I guess we'll find out if they think I'm doing it, so... I don't know.
I don't know where that stuff nets out, man.
Neither do I, because what I've learned is they can do whatever they want to, man. If they think I'm doing it, they're going to come after me, and they're going to put me through the ringer. So, I mean, if they want to come after me, that's fine. It's just going to open the door up to exposing their bullshit. That's it. I mean, that's why I try to say, well, we're getting off. I don't know. I don't know, guys. If they come after me, I'm going to open the book up and be like, hey, well, here's You know, if you show me yours, I'll show you mine. Well, this is everything that now I can show everybody. And congressmen have this too. Like, congressmen have this. Like, I had a congressional inquiry, and I sent them all this stuff. And, you know, so, I mean, if they say I can record, then I'm going to record.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, well.
So where to go from there?
And so he's basically says, well, you know what that looks like when you get a lawyer? I'm like, what? No. He's like, kind of makes you look guilty. I'm like, how does that make me look guilty? He's like, well, if you weren't guilty, you wouldn't get a lawyer. You have nothing to hide.
That is one of the more poorly thought out arguments.
But people think that. And
it's a poorly thought out argument.
And he did that. And I was like, well, he's like, are you in handcuffs yet? I'm like, no. He's like, has NCIS come knocking at your door? I'm like, no. And of course you got chuckles over here. Like, well, they should have. And so it's like, he's like, well, why'd you get a lawyer? I'm like, well, because y'all are accusing me of sexual harassment, man. And what else am I supposed to do? And so he was like, all right, well, we'll figure it out. And then I left. And that was basically the gist of that. It's like, they were mad at me for getting a lawyer. They told people I'm guilty for getting a lawyer. And they did. After that, I basically kind of hung out because my squadron was deployed, but yet a couple guys stayed back, like trickled here and there. Like,
Actually,
no,
yeah.
But don't bust my balls for staying back, for my kids being born, if you're going to stay back too. You know, it's kind of a hypocrite kind of thing to say, hypocrisy, which they did. And so from then right there, man, it was just like weird because I'm like, well, I just got accused of sexual harassment, and then do I go home and disrupt what's going on? Because I just had kids born, you know, old lady sitting right there, and it's just like there's a lot of things going on in the process, man. And I made some decisions with her and our kids and stuff that should I have been transparent and told her and stuff? Absolutely, man. But I didn't because I was justifying that I had to put the command and the situation before my family, because if I couldn't take care of myself, how can I take care of them? So how not crush this and give this 100% of my devotion but keep the peace? It's like controlling the chaos. Like, do I want to introduce this new chaos to somebody who just had, you know, given birth to twins and stuff? And that's no excuse, man. Like, I should have been transparent, and I should have told her. But I didn't, and it caused problems and stuff too, you know, trust. But then again, it's like, well, I'm trying to justify it by saying that I'm protecting her and my family by dealing with this and totally neglecting my family and everything, because I was like, if I can focus on them and stop this accusation stuff and keep this secret and keep it fine, I don't introduce new chaos. I can take care of my kids. And you know, that mindset too is just like, I didn't want to bring work home. And that's not an excuse, because something like this, I could have had more support and I could have had different grounds, but I kind of boxed myself in by not telling the one person I should tell, and I didn't tell. I kept it a secret for a long-ass time. Yeah. Because I was trying to fight it myself, man.
Nobody makes perfect decisions all the time, man.
And I was trying to fight, and I'm not trying to say I'm some kind of white knight or something like this, like I'm trying to do this for the better good. It's like at the end of the day, I should have told her, I should have been transparent, but I didn't, because I had so much going on, man. I was just like, well, I made a decision, I stuck to my decision, and would I make that same decision again today? I would, because look where I'm at now, man. I'm still fighting, and they still don't have me down, man. As much shit as they put me through, I get to spend every day with my kids, and that's something they can't take away from me. I can be a dad. That is my full-time job.
Are you and your wife doing okay?
I don't want to get there. We'll talk about that offline and stuff, man.
Fair.
So it's like, I'm not talking about that stuff right now. But as far as that, and it obviously caused some, you know, ups and downs and everything, man. So, but long story short is people out there in teams that be transparent with your significant other, be transparent, you know, man up, because it could go better. It will go south. Of course, you can take the initial wave, but be transparent, and you'll have somebody there to support you. Yeah. You know? But I didn't know what was going on, man. I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? I'm getting accused of sexual harassment. Like, the only person I've ever sexual harassment with, like, that I wanted to is obviously, you know, significant other. It's like, you mean, it's kind of, I'm not saying actually sexual harassment, but you know what I mean.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want people to think that's like, holy shit. But anyway, it was just weird after that, man. And then nothing happened. And then all of a sudden they were like, well, you got a DRB coming up.
It's a disciplinary review board.
Yeah. And it came from it's out of nowhere. It's like, hey, stand by for disobeying, you know, the MPO and stuff. I was like, okay. But they never brought anything about sexual harassment after that. It was just the MPO. Excuse me. And so a couple months, like, this was December, January goes by and they're trying to figure it out. I'm just lingering around. February comes. January comes. I have my DRB the second week of January. And of course, they're, picking people who they want to be on the DRB for me violating this MPO, because that was the whole premise of it, is that I violated this MPO. They said that I was the only person ever in the history of SEAL Team 6 ever to disobey the CO, to violate an MPO.
Disobey the CO? I have a hard time believing. I had never heard of an MPO until today, so I can't speak on that one.
Yeah. I was just like, so you're telling me out of the whole that I'm... Anyway, I was like, okay, whatever. So they brought me into the DRB, and it was stacked. It had I had 15 Master Chiefs on there, and then I had a chick on there. The reason why she was on there is because she was... And I had people on VTC and stuff, too, that would deploy, like my headshot stuff that were deployed. And the reason why she was on there is because she's an expert in polygraph tests. So before this, they were like, well, if you didn't do this sexual harassment stuff... Because they didn't tell me anything about catfishing. I didn't know anything about nude pictures, or nothing was ever explained to me about any of this stuff beforehand. It was all sexual harassment, and I violated the MPO. But they never told me what was going on with sexual harassment. But the MPO was like the biggest thing. And I'll show you these emails right here that, I could pull up verbatim saying is pissed. He's pissed that Howard got a lawyer. Pissed that he got a lawyer, and I got it right. That's why I got my computer out right here to show you the actual transcripts.
Oh, all this stuff came out in the court proceeding?
Yeah, this is all their mouth from the trial, and this is all requests. So when you get accused of something, I have the right to see stuff from the accusers.
You have the constitutional right to confront your accuser.
But the thing is too, is you think you have that, but they don't give you everything. So obviously, I asked for all their SIPR computer information, all their emails, all their text messages, and we got it all. They fucked up. They wanted to give it to redacted, but they sent me an unredacted in my... That's what I'm saying, this whole classified leaking shit. They sent me all this stuff in my Hotmail. So I'm like, how's...
Known to be one of the most secure servers.
It is, man. That's why I still have it. But, yeah, it's almost like I was like, this is all a joke, man. I was like, they're accusing me of this, so... I go to the DRB. Well, before that, they wanted me to take a polygraph test for sexual harassment, but they never told me what I needed to ask the polygrapher for. Came out with this questions to give the polygraph guy. So I go to this polygraph guy, who, by the way, polygraphed 2 sitting presidents. And I was like, man, I've never taken a polygraph test before. And they don't teach us how to defeat... Nobody is taught how to defeat a polygraph test. They never taught me how to defeat a polygraph test. I don't know how to defeat a polygraph test.
Are you trying to say you're not Jason Bourne?
I'm trying to say that SEAL Team 6 and Navy SEALs aren't as uppity-duppity as people think that we are.
Like normal people.
No, all I am is I'm a better shot than most, and, shittier than all.
Yeah, they're normal people.
Yeah, and so you're just telling me, here's a gun, there's a target, go do your thing. That's it. But anyway... And so they wanted me to take a polygraph test. So I went out and paid $500 to get this thing polygraph tested, and I passed. Come to find out is that we have our own polygraph test guy at the command that they could have done for free, that they brought in to try to explain the polygraph test. So I take the polygraph test, I pass it, I give it to my squadron master chief, and I give it to the command master chief, and thinks that I made it up. So he gave me all this whole list of what to ask this guy about sexual harassment stuff, and I passed it, but he thought that I generated it myself. So they're like, well, go take another one. Okay, and they gave me a new set of questions, called the same guy, go take another polygraph test, pass that one. Come back, bring it up. That's the last thing you ever heard about polygraph test, ever, until my DRB. So they bring this chick in who's supposed to be a polygraph expert to talk about, how me passing the polygraph test is, evidence enough for me to be cleared of these allegations of sexual harassment, which I still don't know what I sexually harassed her for. So we get in there. And put another table right there.
Yeah.
I'm in Blue Squadron's, conference room. So you got all the pictures and all that shit like that. And so it's like this. You got Master Chiefs lined up all right here. And it's a big fucking deal. And I'm sitting in here and I'm talking. He's the command SCA, which is a senior list advisor. If you're a command, and he's a SWIT guy. So if you are a command SCA at SEAL Team 6, that means you're not good at your job and you can't be trusted, because that's just a filler spot for somebody.
I don't think by doctrine that's what it says.
It's not, but that's what people put there for. It's for people who can't be a team leader, or who, because they had people from the fleet that were SCA, they had yeomans that were SCAs. It's just basically somebody there to have good morale. Like, hey guys, guess what? We can grow mustaches today, this month. It's Mustache Monday. I'm like, oh, okay. Come to SEAL Team 6's barbecue. We're going to have SEAL Team 6 swag to pass out, which is another thing that pisses me off about the squadron, is all the swag that. But anyway, so I go in there and he's like, they read this whole book and he's like, you know what you're in here for? I'm like, I don't know. And then they give me this whole paperwork, man, of like just all kinds of shit from the PI, from what they had going on. I'm like, what is all this paperwork? And I'm flipping through it. And it's got like cell phone numbers. It's got like pictures. It's got like a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, what is this stuff? And they're like, you know what you're in here for? I'm like, well, I mean, obviously, because I violated an MPO that, is not really legal to the sense. Should I have violated it? No, but am I legally justified to? Absolutely. But then again, it's like I went against a chain of command. And so they never tell me. I'm asking, what is this for? And then I got the guy next to me. He was a Red Squadron Master Chief, and I don't want to say his name, but anyway, he was right there next to me. He's like, it looks like you're pretty guilty to me. And they never let me ask a question until I said, what is she accusing me of? And they couldn't tell me. I was like, I have a right. And because I was going back and forth, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. So am I being accused of sexual harassment? Like, well, you're being accused of getting naked pictures from somebody that finally came out. And I was like, what? And they would never tell me. And they asked me if I plead guilty. They kept asking me if I pled guilty or not guilty. I know it sounds like I'm not given much information, but there was no information because they wouldn't tell me. They were just basically sitting around staring at me and talking about how I violated an MPO. And it's basically me listening in on a goat locker or a wardroom conversation about what SOC Howard did. You know what I mean? And so finally I was like, well, is she the accusing girl coming in here and going to tell me to have a right to face my accuser? And they said no. And I was like, well, why not? And like, well, because you don't have that right. And I was like, okay, well, I have a lawyer. And he says, and then they went on about the lawyer. Like, well, why'd you get a lawyer? That makes you look bad. That's guilty. Guilty people don't get lawyers. You got a lawyer, you're guilty. If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't get a lawyer. I was like, how are y'all coming at me for defending myself? So 3 of these people that were on my DRB were under investigation, had charges on them. The command SCA who started one of this whole thing, one of the ringleaders, he had charges on him for, I think it was like, I can pull it up. I have his charge sheet right here he was going through the whole charges. He had charges pressed on him and everything through the court-martial system, and they threw that under the table and made him command SCA. But when we brought that up, they still swept it on the table. It was like, whatever. So I have his warrant, I have his charge sheet and everything right now, but yet they put him on a DRB to tell me that I'm a piece of shit for sexually harassing some girl that they won't tell me what I sexually harassed her for. And they're busting my balls for violating this MPO. Then after that, they try to slide in that I had an OPSEC violation. So all they do in the UCMJ is they just keep throwing allegations at you, sidebar, and they keep stacking it up. So when I was in my DRB, I had sexual harassment, I had an MPO violation, and now I had OPSEC violation for leaking classified information because I said I was in Texas doing a breaching trip with CAG guys. In my conversation with other guys on our chat list, they pulled that and they're like, he's leaking classified information by telling us where his location's at. Just some other shit to try to squeeze me, I guess. Which I know it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense to me still. And I know people listening are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Because I don't know. They just throw shit in there for no reason. So after the DRB's done, and it just goes by, they're just, all the DRBs are just yelling at me, calling me a piece of shit. And I was like, well, I want a court martial and I want to face my accuser, because if she's saying I'm sexually harassing her, what did she say I did? long story short is that I go outside. They're like, get out of here. So I go out of the conference room. I sit down in our squadron space. I'm in there for like 2 hours. They're like, yeah, sexual harassment charge is getting dropped. The OPSEC getting dropped, but you're going to captain's mast for the violating the MPO. So they dropped the sexual harassment stuff right then and there and the OPSEC stuff right then and there because they knew I was right. I was like, what is she saying I'm did? The 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why. And they couldn't tell me. And so they were just like, all right, so you're going to go to captain's mast for the DRB. Or not for the DRB, for the MPO. So I'm like, all right. So I go to captain's mast for the MPO. This whole thing's breaking up, and the whole time they're just like, just go in there, admit you violated the MPO, and you'll get to stay at the command. Or the worst thing is worse, you'll go away for a year, and then you'll come back. Well, during that time frame, all this stuff they have on my computers, they were talking about taking my pay away, and taking my trident away, and they were going to send me off. So I was like, I'm not going to say I'm guilty for something I didn't do. Which in reality,
they wanted you to plead guilty to violating a military protective order that was based around a sexual harassment charge that was being dropped.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I go in there, and my head shed was pressuring me to do this. Go in there and say guilty, you'll get a slap on the wrist. We got your back. We got your back. We got your back. That's all I kept hearing. I go on to the captain's mast. How do you plead? Not guilty. Well, I found you guilty. Boom, leave the command. It's up to you to come back. You lost trust. Nobody in the history of SEAL Team 6 has ever violated an MPO, ever disrespected the CO, whatever. And that was in January. I leave. Not the command. I leave the captain's mast. And so after that, from January until May, I'm at the squadron still. So they told me I'm out of the command. You're gone. We're kicking you out of the command. Excuse me. So during that time frame, from January 2018 now until May 2018, I just linger around my squadron space, man. Nobody talks. The command, everybody in my squadron's gone. I just float around in there, man. I walk in there. Nobody's in there. I get on a computer, try to see what's going on. Am I going here? Am I going back? Does anybody have my back? Nobody respond to me. I get this long thing from my squadron. This was months go by, man. 5 months, all until May. I think about April is finally when I heard something. It's like, hey, you're going to trade it over on the East Coast, over there, do CQC. I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. I can manage that and come back. But, once you leave that command, coming back to that command is slim to none.
Depends on who you are, in my experience.
And who you know.
They're probably tied.
But now, too, it's not even who you are and who you know. It's like if you're out of there, you're out of there because the leadership stuff's changed. Like it's all politics, man. And so I finally get word that I go over there and check in. Well, they didn't want me over there because they heard that I violated word. The community spreads fast, man. It's like wildfire. And so it got to them fast, man, and they didn't want me over there. And they were going to put me in like mobility or something for 2 years. But they never would give me orders. So finally I kept begging and begging, give me orders, where's the orders? Let me get this thing done with. They finally got me orders. I went to check in, and the master chief there was like, we don't want him here. So then I didn't have orders. So I went back to the command, talked to he's like, nothing for you, man. Sure enough, I finally get orders again to go back to Tradet. And I'm doing the whole checkout process about, the first 2 weeks of May. I'm doing the whole checkout process. So I got to turn all my guns, all that bullshit, walking all that shit signed on the whole command. And I walk up and get my final checkout and admin, and they're like, hold on a second. And I hear in the back, it's like, he's not supposed to go anywhere. Coming from a guy who's under investigation right now for, I got to pull up for what he did, but it's something ridiculous to another, peer. But my XO, the new XO of the squadron comes in after that. It's like, oh, wait, come with me, man. And so I'm walking with my XO back to Blue Squadron from admin on the second deck. And we go all the way back to the squadron space. I'm sitting there. I walk into Lee's office. You had on here. He was on here. So I walk by his office, and they tell me that I am being investigated by NCIS right now, and I need to get a lawyer. That's what they told me. I was like, didn't y'all just bust my balls for getting a lawyer? And now you're telling me I should get a lawyer? Well, I already have a lawyer. And he had no clue that I already had a lawyer. And so that's just how much she was out of the clue. But then again, he screwed me over too. And so when I went back in there, I was like, okay. So finally, they're like, well, NCIS was to talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm like, okay. So I go to NCIS at 9 a.m. on NCIS Oceana. I'm in the Squadron space, so I go to NCIS Oceana. This was May 2018. And I had one of the Squadron guys drive me over there. I walk in, I had my phone, everything on me, walk in there, sit down. The agents are in there. He's like, you know what you're here for? I'm like, no, and I'm not saying anything either. And so like, okay. So I literally got up and walked out. Then I get told that I am being accused of sexting, and I am being accused of salacious photos, and I have no idea what the fuck is going on. So they told me this after I leave. So finally, after I leave, they're like, well, we have nowhere to go home. So they put me over, hey, I get a random text at like 3 p.m. He's like, can you show up tomorrow and talk to this chief, and this is your new station now. And so they put me over at NCIS Oceana, which is a jet base, which owns Damneck. They own SEAL Team 6.
They own the annex.
Yeah. SEAL Team 6 is kind of like, renting it? Like it's...
I don't know how the land agreement works. But technically it's...
All I know is the CEO of Oceana is over the CEO of DevGru. He owns that dude because...
Probably. I'm sure that property, at least, it falls under their purview.
It falls under. So if I'm attached to the NCIS Oceana, I am now their properties, and that gets into where that you'll see what I'm talking about when I get into that. So I go over to NCIS Oceana now. I am now Navy SEAL over at NCIS Oceana, and I just made chief. I just did my LPO, found out I was making chief, did a whole thing. So I'll go over there, and as soon as I check out, man, my next paycheck, all my special pays were gone. All my SEAL pays were gone. As soon as I left that compound, they took away everything, which is illegal. So they took away all my special pays. Dive, jump, demo, AIP, you name it, they took it away. Chief rank, took it away. Gone. They gave my chief to a guy. Gave my chief to a guy who just got a DWI, the same time I was going through this. And so that's the thing about the leadership is, man, is that it's who you know and politics and stuff like that. So you got a guy I just got accused of something. They kicked me out, all this stuff, and I'm now over at NCIS Oceana awaiting what's going to happen next. But then you got a guy who did the same time I was doing, goes out and gets a DUI, blows double a legal limit, speeds through a residential neighborhood, gets pulled over, gets thrown in jail, goes to court and misses several training trips because of it, and then has to get put those things on your steering wheel.
Oh, like the mobile breathalyzer?
Yeah, you got to blow into it.
Yeah.
Did that. Went to prison. Couldn't drive on the base for a year. He goes to captain's mast with He's like, that's fine, man. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's going to happen. They kept him in the squadron, promoted him. He's still there. Nothing ever came of it. They let him drive on base, too, through the bird net gate. And I was like, how is that not UCI? Or fair. But then again, it's like, what can you really do about it except for bring it up and bitch about it like I am? Because it's not going to change. Because it's like DC, man. It's a swamp. It's just the leadership there is absent. But so I go to NCIS Oceana, man, and all my pay is taken away. I'm now first class again, and I'm just sitting here at NCIS Oceana, first lieutenant in this shop out in the middle of nowhere, man. And I didn't get my really first taste of being back in the fleet because I didn't know what was expected, man. Because the next day, like, well, hey, we're putting up these tents for the O Club. And so I'm like, what's the O? Okay, Officers Club. So basically, when I was at NCIS Oceana, they put me in first lieutenant, which was a trash detail unit. I drove around every morning, every lunchtime, and before I left, around the entire base and picked up trash. I cut down trees, I dug ditches, I cleaned the wardrooms, I cleaned the O Club, you name it, I did it, and I wore a little vest doing it. The first day that I was there, the first day that I actually worked, man, we were putting up stuff in front of the chapel, like tents and stuff. And of course, I have the least military bearing, I got scruff. And this warrant officer comes over, man, warrant officer, and he's like, shipmate. It's this angry black dude, man, just screaming, shipmate. What the fuck is saying shipmate? I was like, sucks to be this people, a nerd getting yelled at. And all of a sudden he's like, you there, shipmate. I turn around, and he's looking at me. He's like, come here, young man. He's like, what is wrong with this picture right here? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know, sir. He's like, where'd you get that belt at? You're not Navy regs. Your haircut is trash. You need a shave. Your boots are unbloused. You know, basically I just came from the compound over to a Blue Jacket manual base. And he was like, yeah, you're fucked up. And so he gave me the whole book. But then the next day, he goes, hey, come here, man. He's like, where'd you get one of those? Hey, give me one of those belts, man. I know you're a Navy SEAL, man. Can I get one of those belts? So I gave him one of those belts, man. I don't think he's
Is
taking
it just like a rigger's belt you talking about?
No, it's it's this awesome brown belt they gave us that you can't find. So I gave him a belt, man. After that, they looked out for me there, man. I do give them that. I was treated with more. The fact that it was a SEAL or not, man, is like the Master Chief that was there and the SEAL was there did look out for me and they did help me out. But the thing is that the command fucked me about. I was picking up dead animals, man. I was shoveling dog shit, like with my trident on and everything, which is, it's degrading. But then again, it's like the regular Navy does that all the time. And that's why I didn't I took offense to it at first, but then again, it's like these people are doing the same thing I'm doing because they had people that were getting accused and that's where they put them at. So if you got accused of Norfolk or of something or whatever, you're going through the whole judicial pop line or whatever, they throw you over at first lieutenant to do various tasks. Like, and I'll show you some videos and stuff of me taking out trash, and it's pretty humiliating, man. And so from May until October, November of 2018, I was there, man. No contact from the command, nothing from the lawyers, nothing from NCIS, nothing. I literally just went there, picked up trash, dug ditches, painted buildings, painted sidewalks, blew down, you name it, I did it, man. And always shoveling the drains. They were big about the drains getting clogged. I'm out there shoveling leaves and dirt and shit out of the drain all day. And I met some good friends over there, man. I met some good guys that you see what they do to them, man. What they do to young kids, young sailors, men, women, and female in the UCMJ is just, it's wrong, man. Like, if you get accused of something, you're done. Like, they will put you through the ringer and you're done. And when I was in the brig with some of these guys that are like 20, 21 years old, they had no option because they don't have the money to get a out civilian lawyer. You get stuck with a JAG who all he cares about is promoting. And the first thing they do is like take a plea deal. Like, oh, this looks bad, man. Just take this year and this bad conduct discharge and it'll be over with in 6 months. And you got some guys who don't know anything about it, like, okay. And they're totally innocent of it. Some of them are guilty, but then again, it's like they have no other option. And that's why I'm a big proponent of you can't get rid of the UCMJ, and people are like, we'll change it, but you can't really change. It's going to take a big force to change the UCMJ because so many people believe into it because not many people know about it. But you should take away all JAGs, man. I think you should take away all defense JAGs should be gone because you do not promote as a defense JAG. You promote by prosecuting cases. That's where you make your money as. You do a JAG 18 months and you prosecute for however long you want to, but they should get rid of the JAGs. They should get rid of the judges and they should get rid of the jury. It should be a civilian jury. It should be a civilian judge, and they should give you per diem to get a civilian lawyer because if you go with just a JAG, you will go to prison. Facts.
What would you put in place of the UCMJ?
I wouldn't put nothing in place of UCMJ, but I would mimic it and I would mirror it to the civilian world. You have a civilian judge who's unbiased, who knows nothing about the military system, whatever. You have a civilian lawyer who can defend you. Prosecutors can say the same, but the judge was a former prosecutor, probably prosecuted the same case, been up against the same lawyers. It's all, well, one thing I would change is separate the prosecutors and JAGs because they're all in one building. Prosecutors on the first deck, defense on the bottom. Defense cannot go into the prosecutor's second deck, but the prosecutors have free reign to go all over the defense's office. Me and my lawyers were sitting in the defense JAG's office, and my prosecutor came walking on down in there, talking about plea deals from other classes with my JAG. Like, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it in the right way, man. It just needs to be revamped. You can't take out the UCMJ, but I would take out the JAGs, and I would take out the judges, and I would take out the jury and make it civilian. I have to keep it as fair and unbiased as possible because you're not It's not fair, man. It's not. Anybody who's gone through it is not fair. Eddie can tell you that. Keith can tell you that. Other guys can tell you that. Their stories, like, I have no right to tell their stories for them or mention, but and you've talked to them, it's like the UCMJ is fucked, man. And it's you got to take out that, but will it ever happen? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's safe to say anything is 100% fucked or good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, believe me, I understand where you're coming from with your experience. I'm not sure burning the bridges and burning the boats is the solution to it. However, I don't have another solution to offer either. I touch the UCMJ very infrequently throughout my time in the military. I think I had one interaction with NCIS, JAGs, the same thing, like ROE briefs, or anytime there would be a question about something that happened on target. And other than that, I mean, I certainly didn't have the level of exposure that you did. So, I mean, it's tough for me to make any recommendations.
And I'm not saying like burn bridges and stuff, man, but there definitely needs to be a change. And it's going to take a bunch of people, powerful people, to do it. And right now, it's just it's not a priority. And I guess America or even the military right now, because you see what's going on right now. It's definitely not a priority. To make that a priority, something significant is going to happen, and it's going to take like a bunch of us talking about it. Like I know I've talked to a couple of guys about it, is like, why don't you get all of us on one podcast and talk about how we all could come together as, you know, leaders or whatever to do this. But then again, how are you going to implement that to change it? How are you going to change it, man? From what I've experienced, it's going to take some serious firepower, man. And even then, it's going to be under scrutiny and a microscope. And
so where'd they get these pictures from that they were accusing you of either being on the receiving end of or sending?
There are no pictures. There was never one picture. Never one.
I thought you said that they were in the paperwork that you were looking at your DRB. There was a bunch of pictures.
Of screenshots of like text messages and stuff. Nothing naked, nothing blurred. It was like screenshots of like, you know how you do your phone, it's got the text thread?
Yes.
It'll be like that. Or it'd be like pictures of training trips, like, but they're blurred out. But there's no naked pictures. It was just, yeah. And I'll show you. We couldn't even see. It was just a blurred picture of like a screenshot of something. But
and they got them by doing a poll off of your phone, or where did they get the?
So they didn't get anything, man. So when October of 2018 came around, they were like, and called me, was like, "Hey, bub, like, what's going on? Making sure everything's all right, man. Like, we came back and nothing was found. Everything's good to go." And I have that conversation recorded too. I'm like, "Okay, everything's good to go." And then I don't hear anything. And then about 2019, I think February is when I first got charged. Like, "Hey, you're being charged with XYZ." And
that's from NCIS.
That came from the command. So NCIS actually did their job on this. And I hate to give them credit, but they actually did their job on my case. Just nobody listened. Nobody cared, because when the agent got up there and said that we didn't have a warrant because we couldn't get a warrant because we didn't have probable cause that he did anything. We never saw one naked picture. These girls I have their testimony. We never seen any naked pictures. There was not one naked. Did you send any naked pictures from Aaron Howard? No. Did you send any? No. Did you receive any? No. The NCIS agent said the same thing. I never once saw any naked pictures. There was no naked pictures. They found me guilty of playing baseball, man. Like
the actual sport, or is that a fucking code word for some? I don't know.
It's a safe word.
Yeah, Jesus.
Baseball, curveball. But no, they found me guilty of playing baseball, man. So when they charged me, and I'm gonna pull this up right here, man.
Yep.
And I'll tell everybody what they charged me with. So this is one of the motions that I wrote up, or that my lawyers wrote up, Michael Wyington and stuff. And so they charged me with, SOC Aaron Howard is charged with the following 9 specifications of Article 134. So So if you look at it, they'll charge you with something, but they'll just reword it. And it's the same thing, and just bam, 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 bam. So they charged me of requesting and receiving nude photographs under false pretenses, encouraging the sending of photographs under false pretenses, requesting nude photographs under false pretenses, impersonating another person, indecent conduct, 3 specifications. So right there is indecent conduct they charged me, but I'm also charged with indecent conduct times 3, so 3 subcategories. So add 3 more charges onto these 8 charges, which carry their own sentence too. That's how they do it. They shotgun you. And it's like impersonating an official and 3 counts. But
So these charges came from NCIS.
these charges came from not NCIS, well, yes, NCIS, but they also came from the prosecutor. The prosecutor, see, that's where I'm confused at. The NCIS didn't charge me with this. NCIS can't charge us. The prosecutor and the government charging you. So NCIS
Probably gathers the information.
Yeah, but NCIS never gathered information. NCIS didn't interview one of these girls until 2 weeks before my trial. And so NCIS...
Which is obviously after they sent.
So NCIS did their job as far as me saying, we don't have anything, but it was the command. It was... Because initially, NCIS like, this is not in our realm. We don't investigate stuff like this. There's no crime here. There's no crime for sending and receiving naked pictures, especially when they did it in consent if there were naked pictures, which there wasn't. So when they charged me with this, so this is just one of the charge sheets. I've had 4 different charge sheets, and each one of them had, they one-line it and write a new charge. One-line it, write a new charge. So it literally looked like my 4-year-olds did my charge sheet. It was absolutely disgusting. It was unprofessional. And so when they charged me with this, it's like, what am I facing here? And then come to find out is each charge was 5 years. And what people don't know is I was facing life in prison, man. So they had 8 charges, but then if you look at the 3 specifications, each one I was 11 charges, but then they took those off, and so I was actually only charged with 9 charges.
Still 45 years.
45 years, which would put me at, what am I, 30, be 37, 30, be 70-something years old. Like, I'm not good at math, man. What am I, 36 now? What's that, plus 45? 80?
It's like 114.
Yeah. It's 37 years.
Let's not rely on the dude who got a 32 on the ASVAB to do the math.
I still became a Navy SEAL. So if I can do it, you can do
You'd
it.
be in your 80s, 70s or 80s.
You just won't be smart. But 45 years, man, that's what they wanted, was 45 years for this. That's life in prison for me. Like, I'd get out at 70-something. What would I do at 7 years old? You know? Because she asked for 45 years and a dishonorable discharge. For what?
The prosecutor did?
Yeah. So the way they charge this is like, so these girls, so the nutritionist, nothing of her whole testimony was, we impeached all 3 of them. And their testimony got thrown out, but the judge still used them. So
How is that possible?
because it's corrupt and rigged. How is it possible? How is it not? That's the question. It literally was like a scripted play, man. When you walked in there, everything was already set, signed. They already knew what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. So for what they charged me with and what these girls accused me of is the girls didn't accuse me of this. The command accused me of this. These girls went to the command and said, hey, this happened. And they accused me of it because they also accused a bunch of other people, but they leaned heavy on me too because I got a lawyer. I stood my ground. I said, this is, stupid, and these girls are stupid, and I didn't do this, and I was fighting back, so I made an easy target for them to be like, let's just railroad him.
Well, who are these girls? Obviously, the nutritionist is
2
one.
of them I have no idea. I've never even met 2 of these girls, and I've never even met 2 of these girls. One of them was on the West Coast, and one of them worked for the command as a cyber intel person. She was the girl who made your stuff, who snooped on your Instagram. We even found out that she had 3 different cell phones that she was texting these other 2 girls, and she gave the NCIS agent fake phone numbers.
Well, wouldn't they have to show a record of you somehow being in communication with these girls?
Yep. And there was nothing on there. We gave them all that. They didn't care. They have my phone records. So when NCIS...
Wouldn't that be the end of it, though? If you can show that there is no communication that you've ever had with these people?
Exactly, which was what we did. We proved, but they got me with Article 134, prejudice to good order and discipline.
Back to the MOP or
Nope.
MPO?
Back to me, bring it, because I brought them to court-martial. I went against the grain, and they railroaded me for that. I said, I want a court-martial. Go fuck yourself. Let's rock and roll. And they said, all right, floodgates open. They throw millions of dollars into it, and I'm one person trying to just defend myself, and that's what they do is they will grind you down and beat you down and throw charge after charge after charge to make it until you break. That's what they do, and they will keep coming. They still are coming after me. This morning, I got a call from damn NSWDG quarterdeck. Hey, you can't say this on there. Like,
How the fuck did they even know you were coming out here?
Dude, you tell one person, or you know what I mean?
Well, that's on you, fucker. That was OPSEC week on your side.
It is. My Instagram is monitored. My Facebook, when that Sarah Ricardo article came out about me on Fox News,
I didn't see it.
I sent you everything to prep.
You didn't send me anything, by the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what a leader does. Is you send them a bunch of. They ask for paperwork, and then when you send it to them, they just were like,
bro,
whatever.
I will look through my emails right now. You never sent me an email.
Do you look in your spam and junk box?
Yeah. Dude, let's do a search right now. I'll pull my fucking laptop out.
Do you think I was catfishing you?
Dude, I didn't.
I didn't
even know what the fuck it means.
I didn't send you anything, man.
I was gonna say I didn't see shit
because they lost my backs. But anyway, the command was accusing me, not these girls, because I didn't know these girls. So here's how.
How did the command know the girls?
Because one of my XO was banging one of these girls. The nutritionist has been around for a while. The third girl, I have no idea, man. Like, I've never seen this girl ever in my life. Two of them, like, I have no idea. Here's how here's how one of the girls, it was one of the girls who was the main antagonist because she thought she was in love with the SEAL from SEAL Team 6. And so this is how they went and approached the command, these girls. Is so right now you and me are talking, right? And so tonight I get back to my hotel room over there at Whitefish after I get McDonald's, which is the only thing to eat in Montana.
It's not actually true, but I could give you some other recommendations.
Where I'm at. Yeah. Subway, but and I get back to the hotel room, and then you get an hour later, you get a text message saying, "Hey Andy, it's Aaron, it's my new number." You know, and you're like, "Okay, cool." But you never text me on my number that you had before to say, "Did you get a number, man?" And so anyway, you just roll with it. But I'm like, "Andy, man, like I really liked how you looked in that Cleared Hot podcast T-shirt and beanie and stuff, man."
Who didn't?
Who
didn't like how I looked?
And I remember how you were talking about CrossFit from Second Phase, you know. Can you send me a picture of your dick? And you're like,
is that how that shit works?
I don't know, but apparently it does. Apparently you go to prison for it. But anyway, it's and then you're like, okay, it's kind of weird, whatever, and you know, and then it takes me a second to find anyway. But I get it, you get it, whatever. You're like, okay, nothing to it. So you text me in the morning, "Hey man, let's go to breakfast." So we go to breakfast, and you're like, "Hey Aaron, fucking, you see that dick pic I sent you, man?" I'm like, "Andy, dick pic? You sent me a dick pic? I didn't get no dick pic." I pick up my phone, no, nothing. "Wait, man, you didn't text me from your new number saying that, you know, you want to see my dick?" I'm like, "No." You obviously embarrassed by it. "Holy shit, I sent my dick is out there in the world for people to see." FBI, it's Andy Stump, man. I sent my dick out to a random number. I need you to investigate. That's it. That's what I went to prison for something I didn't do. Because you sent out a grown man, your genitalia, to a random number that you have no idea who it is, and it's out there for people to see. And so you initiate an investigation to NCIS or the command, and they want to know where Andy Stump's penis is at and who asked for it.
That's a very weird story.
That's my case. Now do it with a chick. Some chick one of these girls got a text message saying, "Hey, it's the new command nutritionist." "Oh, hi, command nutritionist. Oh my God, I haven't talked to you in like 20, when we're reading it."
So somebody basically what you're saying is that you believe that somebody was pretending to be you.
No, somebody was pretending to be the command nutritionist to text this girl on the West Coast, "Hey," and this whole thing was about body scanning and all this stuff. It is very weird, man. Long story short is that somebody was pretending, or nobody was pretending, or something was going on, man, that, "Hey, I'm the command nutritionist. Hey, girl, I haven't talked to you in 2 years. Oh my gosh, this is my new number. Ha ha ha. Let me see a picture of your butt. Ha 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 ha. Hey, did you really ask for a picture of my butt? No. Oh my God. Let me go talk to NCIS." And that's literally how it goes. Somebody pretended to be this nutritionist, asked this girl to see her butt. She said, and mind you, these girls in their late 30s, early 40s, said, okay, San Diego to Virginia, the picture gets sent.
But how are you inserted in the middle of that?
Because when that girl went up and started asking questions, like saying, hey, my butt is out there, or whatever picture's out there for the world to see because somebody's pretending to be a nutritionist, they went and started going to each of the squadrons and stuff and asking and interviewing people if they knew about it, because apparently this has been going on for a while. Because I heard a story about the Gold Squadron Master Chief who was doing this, and he got busted back in like 2011.
Yeah, but how do you, I mean, can't the phone number be traced to the device? Like,
Yeah. So they tried to say that it was my router that they got. Boom.
Like your internet router?
Internet router to my house that they got. That was the biggest thing, is that they said that they had my router because I was using a texting app. And the texting app captures your IP address from whatever device you're using, and they keep control of it. So when you subpoena, the phone and stuff, like, oh my gosh, like, okay, well, we know his IP 1.4.23 point whatever is linked to this, and that, and it shows it goes back to his phone. And so that's when you have to subpoena the internet company like Cox, get his internet records, get my phone records, get my, like, first thing in investigation, first thing you should do is get their electronics. So they weren't getting this stuff. So literally my lawyer's like, take your stuff to NCIS and give it to them. So I loaded my stuff, NCIS, here you go. They never looked into it because they couldn't get a warrant because they didn't have probable cause, because they never saw one picture from the girls, and these girls weren't cooperating with them at all. They would never turn their cell phones over, nothing. It was the command. It wasn't these girls. It was the command pursuing these charges. It was the leadership pushing the charges on me, man, because I defied them. I was the only one in history ever to defy a CO at SEAL Team 6. I was the only one ever to defy an MPO. I told them I'm staying back from deployment. I got Sailor of the Year because I was stepping over. If you get Sailor of the Year, you're automatically supposed to be promoted to the next rank. So I was chief. I made chief. So according to the OpNav, if you make that, I made chief. I was supposed to be promoted to senior chief because I made Sailor of the Year for the squadron. They put me in Sailor of the Year for the command. So if I put in for the command, I automatically get promoted to the next, according to the Navy OpNav. But they said that they found the texting app that was being used to text this girl pretending to be the nutritionist, they said linked back to my home router in Virginia Beach.
How could they know that without doing the electronic poll?
Because they do the cell phone pings and stuff. They do the tower pings and all that stuff. And they pull the records from, so they're saying, hey, this texting app is being used. So they subpoena the texting app company. They give them the records of the number that's being used. They do the search number, comes back, boom. They do it triangulated, all that crap. Cell phone towers, it comes in, hey, it was this right here, and they narrowed it down. They said it was my address, my IP address, my router. I said, no, it wasn't. Bullshit. So they got my router. Wasn't my router. I've had that same router. The prosecutor and the government, when we were in trial, my lawyer, Michael Waddington, asked for the full subpoena from Cox Internet, and the prosecutor would only give the first 3 pages. There was 10 pages. The last 4 pages had the actual warrant and subpoena on there that showed that that wasn't even my IP address, that the prosecutor copied and pasted. They made up their own IP address. They still have my router there. And they have my router. They have everything of mine, man. And we came back and it wasn't my router at all.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, we need a Cox expert to come here, the Cox internet person to come here to testify, to give their whole thing. I need a cyber expert to explain it. The government didn't have a cyber expert to come and explain all this stuff that I'm trying to explain to you that I have limited knowledge of. I just know they triangulate, and the expert didn't come. The Cox lady didn't come because she was like, it is not up to us to figure out y'all's cases. We have it. It's not mine. They're like, it's not his, but it's up to you to investigate that. She didn't come and testify. So it was all, they were just crumbling, man. And we're like, we got this one. Even when the prosecutor said that, not the prosecutor, but NCIS said that it wasn't me, that they couldn't get probable cause to get a warrant. We thought we had to, sign something delivered, but it just kept going on from there. So when I finally got charged, I didn't know what was going on because I was getting yanked back and forth, man, and I didn't know what was going on. It was just basically a bunch of back and forth, what's going on. And, my home life was, not so well as far as a career and stuff. It was not so well. And so finally, my first motion hearing came, man, and it was the end of December 2019. No, it was August 2019 was my first motion hearing where we accused them of unlawful command influence. And so basically, when I got accused of this to kill a command, he sent out an email saying, because I was asking people too to help me out, man. And I was asking people for their testimony, and I was trying to say all this stuff when I got charged. Well, we have all the emails right here that he sent out to the command saying that if you help out Howard, you won't be at the command. So either choose me or not choose me, choose the command or choose Howard. And obviously all my teammates chose Howard, or not chose Howard, chose the command, because nobody helped me out, man. Nobody would testify for me or anything. We had to subpoena every single one of my teammates to come testify because they wouldn't. And so during that time frame, let one of these girls that were accusing give a PowerPoint presentation, man, an 84-page PowerPoint presentation to the entire command about why she thinks I'm guilty, what's going on with the case, and what she would do. This was one of the girls that was having an affair with my XO, and she was the lead cyber girl at the command. And apparently she's a victim. So why would you have a victim give an all-hands speech about what her thoughts are on a case that's ongoing right now, which is illegal? And he did that. He did that, and let her do that to the entire command, even after the email. Held a all-hands meeting with, TAC Devron 2 Blue Squadron and said, don't help out A-Ho. That was my nickname. Don't help out Aaron. Don't do nothing. Like, choose the command. XYZ, he sucks. He's a piece of shit. He's going down. And we have all that shit right here. And so that went down. And then we had our first motion hearing is when I found out that I got awarded, award Bronze Star and stuff for the deployment beforehand. Found that in the trash can. They threw that in the trash can. They took away all that stuff. So it's like, the fact is that award ceremonies are award ceremonies. Like, whatever. Yeah. But don't disrespect me about throwing it away in the trash can. That's kind of like, that's fucked up. But so they did that. They did all that stuff. So then I had my first motion hearing where I laid it all out, where they took my money away at the beginning because I was not getting paid shit. Took my rank away, threw my Bronze Star away. They were sending out emails saying, don't, help out, Aaron Howard. They had all hands. So we had it all laid out. We're like, we're good. This is definitely 100% by the book, unlawful command influence, which is, if that happens in a trial, it's supposed to be case, signed to deliver. But in that case, it didn't. The judge did say he found UCI 100%. And that's when the article came out, Navy Times, about, sexting, salacious and stuff and all that bullshit. And so they did find it. And so now it was like, it's up to, if the judge finds out that we proved our point, it is now up to the prosecution to defend that. So now it's on, the burden of proof is on them. And so they came back with like, yeah, they said they didn't do that. And the judge was like, okay, boom, hit the hammer. That first motion was gone.
And there's no jury in this. It's just a judge, military judge.
It's literally like this: the military judge. It's people who I call up subpoena. It's the prosecutor. It's me. There's no jury. Jury doesn't come in until you actually have a full-on trial, which was what I thought I was going to get the best bang for my buck, is going with the jury, of my peers, which it wasn't. So that got thrown out the window, and then like a month or two went by, and my lawyer, Michael Weinstein, called me and was like, excuse me, hey man, we just got stuff that, your JAG is being threatened. And this is going to take like 5 minutes, but I want to read you. This is the motion hearing that we had, that this is the first time that we had 2 sitting judges that we brought to the stand to cross-examine them. And you're not supposed to do that, but we did that. We had to do that because they were influencing my case. The main JAG of the entire JAG Corps of the Eastern Region Seaboard was influencing my case, and they were linking my case to Eddie's case, and they were using that against me, and we were putting that in there too, and our cases had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, it couldn't seem to be farther apart.
During my whole trial, half the jury the whole time thought they were dealing with Eddie's case, and my lawyer was like, "Are we with his case or is this the Howard case?" Because that was going on at the same time with mine, and I'm not. No, it's not in my place to even talk about their stuff, but
just swing the mic over as you. There you go.
I'm still not used to this thing, man. But I just want to read you this motion, man, because this is really explains a lot without me explaining it, man. So this was the 2nd of October, 2019, and it's about a five-minute read. So if you just bear with me.
Go for it.
So I read the charges, whatever. So the offenses allegedly occurred from July through September 2017. And now since they took away chief, I'm now SO1. It's like SO1 Howard's military defense counsel mentioned in this motion, unless otherwise noted, was in my JAG. Civilian defense. Here we go. It says, on July 23rd, 2019, a civilian employee of Code 67 emailed military defense counsel requesting information to access defense counsel's official Navy email account. So before this is we found out that they were meddling in my case. So Code 67 is like, it's a technology, operations, and planning. I still don't know what it is. It's where you go and be like a computer nerd or geek, whatever, on the East Coast.
Space Force. Something
like that. So that's where Chaplack went, and people don't know that, is that the prosecutor that was prosecuting Eddie's case, when they found out that he was spying on their email and stuff like that, they shit canned him. Well, he got shit canned to the East Coast, and then he tried to get on my defense team to help be part of my defense. And I was like, yeah, man, come right on board, man. Like, I want your representation. I was like, no. But it's just, so requesting information to access defense counsel's official naval email account. Specifically, the civilian stated in his email, can you please send the following information for all users who receive the email on their Navy account? So as we were writing the first motion because they were writing me shitty evals. They wrote me fake evals and stuff. And in there, I was in Africa. And they said that I was leaking classified. This is the first time I got accused of leaking classified information. And when I said Africa, Code 67 got involved. The commands crap got involved. And they literally did a full-on, they raided my JAG's office, took his Navy computer and everything, man, because they thought I was leaking classified information by saying Africa. And so the defense counsel, my JAG, was freaking out, man. So on July 23rd, 2019, Civilian Defense Counsel and Military Defense Counsel, concerned over what a data scrub of Military Defense Counsel's email account would entail and about what client confidentiality in general, raised the issue to the military judge in an email to all parties, requesting a rules for court-martial RCM 802 conference and stating what's going on. It was brought to my attention that the Navy is attempting to remotely search my JAG's computer files and emails looking for potentially classified information. We are unsure of the limitations of these searches. We are concerned that this may impact the Howard case and my JAG's other cases at various levels. It also raises ethical issues for both of us. So when I did that, they wanted all my JAG's case files on me, which entailed they wanted his computer. So they wanted all his files of all his clients. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no. They also wanted my lawyer's, Michael Wynton's computer, his phone, his stuff, everything. And he was like, no. Because I said Africa, and that's literally what started this reaction. And that's why I filed this motion right here, because by me saying Africa, it led to the firing of my JAG because I said that, and they thought I was leaking classified information. But and long story short is that Code 67 and the OJAG and stuff were meddling in my case.
Is Code 67 a military group?
I don't know what they do, man.
I've never heard that term before.
Neither have I until now. I'm assuming it's where they go to scrub all stuff like that and do intel. It's on the East. I think it's up there in Langley somewhere. I don't know where it's at, man. It's a nerd thing. So I still don't. But long story short is that we got judges and we got Captain who was the head of the JAG Corps on the East Coast, who basically said that, because the first motion we filed, he said that, is it ethical to file a motion? It might not always be the right thing, but is it really the ethical thing to do is to file a motion in a defense? And they told my JAG to show restraint in my case, don't do this, don't do that. And he held it. And he also said, look at the Gallagher trial. And they just keep on going with that. And they basically influenced my case. It caused me to fire my JAG. And I had to bring in a Marine JAG who did a phenomenal job. But he basically, my JAG was good at first. But when he got pressured by all the powers that be, he looked out for himself and he ran, but he didn't really run though, because he took one for the team, because if I didn't fire him, it'd be a biased thing, because he now was the one who wrote this motion against the command, against the JAG, against the, cap and stuff for meddling in my case. They were saying that, and it's hard. There's so much stuff here, man. I'm trying to tell them, but they held an all hands meeting. Cap held an all hands meeting with all the JAGs after this motion was filed, because we accused him of UCI and we accused 2 sitting judges of UCI, which is unlawful command. They didn't like that and they pushed back. They pinched my JAG and they said, either represent him or get fired. I fired him in front of the judge and I got a Marine JAG brought on after all this was down. I mean, they went through all my emails. They went through all his emails. We brought them in. We brought Captain and those 2 other judges to sit down and testify. We even, the own judge that I had, we made him testify, and we tried to get him recused from the case because he was best friends with Captain who was meddling in my case, who is in charge of the entire JAG Corps, man, on the East Coast. And basically, no, this whole thing just went to the way where this motion and my first motion was supposed to completely stop my case, man, because it was just ridiculous. So after these motions were said and we tried to recuse the judge from the case, we didn't have a trial date coming up, and we were still asking for things from these girls and from the command. Like, you can do a Barron request, which is basically, or it's a Brady request, asking for all the stuff against people who are going to testify against you. So when I brought all my teammates, 15 of them up there to testify, to talk about, because there's emails going back and forth about, being pissed about me getting a lawyer, being pissed about me getting a lawyer, and all these guys were talking to me, and we all had the chats from it. And so I wanted them to help me out. So I was like, well, if you're not going to help me out, I'm going to subpoena your ass. And we did. We brought them all up in there, and they all crumbled, and they all cowered. And they were all pointing fingers at each other. And so when they came up and testified, man, like on this, we were supposed to testify for this, and we were supposed to testify for my teammates on this motion hearing before my trial date. So this was the last motion that we filed before my February trial date, which was February, it was the second week of February of 2020. And so this was supposed to be game on, like this was supposed to be silence to deliver, my case is overturned, but it wasn't, even after we had all my teammates stuff testify. So trial came around, and I know I'm trying not to go, that's why I don't want to read all this, man, because there's a lot of stuff to process without me trying to explain it first. When the trial came around, I went up there and testified, and I gave my entire testimony. I told them like it is, this is XYZ, what I saw, what happened. And when I'm sitting there, after I get done.
Pull that mic closer to your face.
After I get done testifying, man, I'm like, okay, good to go. I had reporters in there. I thought they were going to report on that, and they didn't report on anything. Like, my trial with people in there was packed, but it was only on the prosecuting side. Like, the people who always stood by me were the people from First Lieutenant, the trash detail unit. And so when I went up there and testified, man, you got to be real careful what you say, because anything you say can be flipped and twisted, but it's not hard when you tell the truth. And so after I testified, man, it came around, like, hey, you got a court date, you're doing a general court martial. They didn't give me a special court martial, but they gave me a general, which is like for felony trials, man, which is for like the dudes that choked out that dude and, the Green Beret. That's what general court martial's for, not for spoofing and catfishing and stuff. And so when they charged me, I went to trial and stuff. It was a week-long trial, and they were supposed to ask for a enlisted jury. You're supposed to get like some enlisted people with some officers, and that can't be all officers, can't be all that. So I asked for enlisted members. So I think it's like 2/3 are supposed to be enlisted, and the rest supposed to be, officers. Well, they got this new thing now called the bingo system, where I didn't get to pick mine. They raffle them off into the system, and it prints out the name of all these people who you do voir dire for, which is, voir dire is where you bring the jury members in there. Jury selection and stuff. And all of them thought it was the Gallagher trial, man, the whole time. But we finally shut that down. I was like, no, this is what's going on. We finally selected who we wanted to. They ran their names to the bingo system, and then it reshuffles them. And so it's like a pick and choose kind of thing. Well, if you move this jury member on, and this jury member gets put up here, but then the prosecutor gets to take out 2 of your picks and put 2 of their picks in. It's just a constant shuffle. So I was supposed to have enlisted people on there, which I think I had 2 master chiefs on there, and the rest were all officers, man. Like,
that ratio seems askew.
I got fucked. So
how many total jurors?
I had 12.
Okay.
I think 12. No, I had either 9 or 12. I know it seems like the 3 difference, but I think I had 9 or 12, man. I didn't really look at the juries because like don't supposed to look at them or anything. So I was literally sitting there like this, and I got fucked, man, because during that whole time, the prosecutor who I had, man, she's not a nice person. So she was a brat, we can say, because her and the judge, her and the judge they went to lunch together. She was talking to the jury members when you're not supposed to. When the jury members went back to deliberate, she was back there talking to them. She gave the jury members her computer. The judge's phone was going off during my trial, man. That dude was burping during my trial. He didn't care. Like, a felony, you're putting me in for life. I'm going up for life, man. And your phone is ringing on the loudspeakers in my trial. The prosecutor asks every 5 minutes for a break. She goes in and talks to the jury members.
How is she allowed to do that?
Because the judge, he was supposed to retire, but he stayed from retirement, postponed retirement, just to do my case. And they're not supposed to do that, but they got away with it. They did whatever they wanted to. They were sitting there shooting the shit before my case. Like, my JAG, when I had the Navy JAG, was over there shooting the shit with the prosecutors. They're just over there shooting. I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you over there shooting the shit with the people that put me away for life? That's how they do it. They all know each other. It's a small crew, and they all know each other one way or another. Like, all the defense wants to go to prosecuting side. All the prosecutors want to be a judge. She wanted to be a judge. He wanted to be a prosecutor. And the judge, I don't know what the judge was, just a corrupt asshole. But
is he retired now?
Yeah, he like does something at Walmart or something, like prosecuting theft or something. But yeah, he's retired. And so when the trial started, and I brought some of my teammates over there, like and stuff, and we pressed him on them writing me fake evals, because they were writing me fake evals. Like, they said I was in charge of ordnance during this whole time, because I wasn't getting the eval when I was over at first lieutenant of the. They were just make me eval and give it to me. I was supposed to sign it through the command, through NCIS Oceana. So they were writing me fake evals. They were putting stuff like in charge of $1 million worth of sensitive equipment, like optics and all that stuff, like the armory and everything. And if something goes missing on there, and they go back to see who lost it or who's in charge of it, well, it comes back to me, because they put on my eval that I'm in charge of ordnance, which is what they tried to do. And I called them out on it. It says, like, in charge of all these sensitive equipment and everything. I was like, I didn't do that. And sure enough, a pair of nods went missing. Who was in charge of the nods and the ordnance? Well, it says right here, Howard was. And so they came at me for trying to say I lost nods. And that's when I caught them writing those evals, because they were putting stuff on there like trained 50 people during this time frame. I was like, no, I didn't. And then they put on there knocked down 25 hornets' nests to prevent anaphylactic shock and save lives around people from NCIS Oceana.
Did they have to eventually cop to having written the fake evals?
We caught them on the stand. They all admitted on the stand, and they every single one of my teammates in the Al Militia purged themselves on the stand, committed perjury, false statements, everything. That's why people are saying I'm ratting. everything that they did and all the finger pointing and snitching and stuff, they did to themselves, man. I have it all in the transcript, and I'm just going to give it to them. I'm not protecting you for a hole you dug. But yeah, they admitted to it, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And those are my evals that went on my permanent military record, man.
Did you sign them?
No.
How can they go on your record then?
Because they put them in there anyway, man. It doesn't
It has to be
matter.
signed, though.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure it does.
I know it has to be, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, it would be
They could,
if the what is it, MPO or MOP?
MPO.
If the MPO is not signed, right, and it's not valid, how could an eval go in unsigned and be valid? I mean, it has to have your John Hancock on it.
It has to, right?
My understanding, I'm not an expert in the fucking evaluation system for clarity, but
Exactly, man. Like they do whatever they want to, man. That's how deep it is. Like they do whatever they want to.
are you sure they've put it in your permanent record?
Yeah, man. They control out. They put it, and then they control out deleting my permanent record. That's the thing. Is they put it in there, and they took it out. They had control of my stuff. So when I got out of the matrix, they control out deleted everything from me.
What do you mean by out of the matrix? Like out of the military?
Out of the command, out of DevGru. Because
Okay.
you go into DevGru and you're just like, oh, like I'm at SEAL Team 6. It's so badass. I'm in the matrix. Like I'm getting all these sweet trips, these RMTs, these ruts and all this stuff. And, you get your government card, you're in the system. And then once you're out off the train, it's like, bloop, control out delete. They deleted my files. They deleted everything from me. It's like I never even existed at that command.
I feel like that shit has to exist somewhere, like
My-
at Bupers.
My badge does. I can still badge in right now. I still get my badge. But they asked for everything but my badge. But
Which is weird.
everything about my thing is weird, man. Like,
Well, how did it end? What was the termination of it?
of what? Of me getting kicked out of the command, or
So you're at the trial.
so at the trial. So I'm at the trial, man. And then, long story short, is all the stuff they did and everything, man, is that they found me guilty of Article 134, prejudice to good order and discipline, which is I could wear this beanie in my guacamoles, and I just brought prejudice to good order and discipline because I'm not following rules. You know what I mean? And that is punishable by court-martial. It is a general catch-all. You don't need any evidence for Article 134. Zero. It's all accusations.
Did that come with a discharge?
No. So when they found me guilty, they kept me because they were like, hey, I was going through entire medical screening before that, like medical retirement and everything, man. And you're not supposed to be kicked out. Regardless of fact is you're not supposed to be adcept or kicked out of the Navy when you're going through this medical process.
Yeah, the PEB, MEB process?
Yeah, you're supposed to be purely 100. That's the only thing you'd be protected of. And I was protected. I thought I was protected. And the jury's like, hey, we found you guilty of Article 134, 30 days in the brig, busted down to E5, but we retain you. So I'm like, okay. So I'm still in the Navy. So after that, after they said that, it's immediately boom to the brig, man. Like after they read the verdict, you stand up, they handcuff you in front of your family, chain me and everything, man. Like it was embarrassing because I just got found guilty of something I didn't do. Like back to the baseball thing. They found me guilty of playing baseball because whoever made this, whatever's going on, this screen name was Swing Fast. And the command was like, oh, that's a baseball terminology because Swing Fast, it must be a baseball. And Aaron Howard is known as a baseball player. Well, how am I known as a baseball player? I never played baseball. I played T-ball. Well, I guess you can say I played baseball, played T-ball. But because there was this guy, and I'm going to rat him out right now. So I did go to high school with him. He's still an active duty Navy SEAL. And one of these girls knew on the East Coast, a guy who I went to high school with. I was a year behind him in high school. And I have his testimony right now, right here, signed testimony under law, affidavit, signed. He's saying that I played baseball in high school. He played baseball with me on the varsity team. He did this. I played games. So this whole thing was based around I played baseball too. I know it sounds weird, but and so I brought my yearbooks. I brought my credit card. I had my dad there and everything to testify. And I was saying I didn't play baseball. I never swung a bat. And they still found me guilty of it because he testified saying that I played baseball with him in high school. We flipped through yearbooks. He didn't even play baseball in high school. So right there, his testimony got me convicted. He lied to me.
How did it get you convicted, though?
Because they used his testimony against me, and if they found me guilty of Article 134, they found me guilty of everything, man, basically. Because his testimony...
But what does you playing baseball in high school have to do with being found guilty? The screen name?
Yeah, because the screen name was Swing Fast, and they related it to a baseball because he was talking to one of these the girl on the West Coast, about something, man, and something came up with baseball, and the screen name was Swing Fast. They said that is a baseball name, and they said that I'm known as a baseball player. That's literally how it went, man. I know it doesn't seem right, and it's like, this is ridiculous, because it is. I don't understand it still, and I got convicted of Article 134. I didn't get convicted of any of the naked stuff because there was no naked pictures. The girls went up there. I didn't send naked pictures. I didn't receive naked pictures. I didn't see a naked picture. Did you see Aaron Howard? Did you know who Aaron Howard was for this? No.
What's crazy is every article that was written about it referenced those things, though.
I know the thing, but there was no. I'll show you after off my, and there was nothing, man, nothing.
So you go to the brig.
So I stand up, and they handcuff me, man. My ankles run up to my hands, chain me up, 6 people around me. Off I go. They were supposed to give me medical screening beforehand, mandatory, but they didn't. They just hauled me off to the brig, man. They didn't ask any medical conditions, nothing. Literally got in, drove me to Naval Consolidated Brig Chesapeake. It was now I think 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something like that. And go in there and pull up in the van and get out, unhandcuff me. I'm right there. They drive off. Next thing I was like, you're here at the brig, whatever. Get naked. Got butt naked, lifting my shit up, turn around, bent over, cough. Then you're sitting there waiting. They give you, I didn't have, whatever you go to the brig with, you're supposed to come out of the brig with. So all I had was my uniform. And so they were giving me used clothes. The command was supposed to pack me a sea bag, put the regulations of all my stuff, but they never did. So I'm in there wearing somebody else's stuff until I get my own stuff. And they throw me in solitary confinement, man. And that's where I sat for 18 days of my 30-day sentence. And the first 7 days, man, was the worst because I was on some heavy antidepressants, man. Yeah. Like venlafaxine, like 150 milligrams. That stuff is, and I was on propranolol, I was on Adderall, I was on Concerta, and knowing us team guys, we're big go home, man. Like I was taking, venlafaxine. I was taking 3 or 4 other antidepressants on top of that. I was taking nighttime shit. I was taking Ambien. So I had a handful of pills in the morning, handful of pills in the evening. I was doing this for a couple of years, man, because all that shit was going on. And they threw me in there cold turkey with my medication. And I wrote several, my parents did, and I did. We wrote several IG complaints, man, about this. And coming off, if anybody has ever been on venlafaxine or anti-heavy depressant, it's hard to come off that, man. You got to wean yourself off. Like I was taking heavy doses of that, and just to come off of it, you start feeling real weird, man. Like you have bad side effects of all that stuff. And they threw me in there, and they wouldn't give me my medication, man. So I was throwing up. I had diarrhea. I was like headache. I was crying. I was on the floor, and they wouldn't give me food, man. They were literally giving me bread and an apple. And I was literally sitting there, and they wouldn't turn the lights off. I had the lights on 24/7, sitting in there in solitary confinement, just sitting there, man, just throwing up for 7 days. Like,
fuck.
It's like I've never done heroin or I've never been alcoholic, but imagine throwing them in there and just saying, get sober. That's what they did. And dude, I was in there shaking, having tremors. I was banging on the door. I was like, bro, give me my medication. Can I call my dad? Can I do this? Can I call my family, my lawyers? And they just looked at me, man. Just like nobody from the command came or nothing. I was literally just sitting there throwing up. Had like, I was shaking. I don't know if it was a seizure or not, man, but I was fucked up. And then I couldn't eat after that. It was bad, man. And so they kept me in there. They weren't supposed to keep me in there. They kept me in there for 18. And it was finally the 19th day they let me out in General Pop because the other SEAL in there that just got in choke in the Green Beret was in there with me too. And he left, and then I went to General Pop. And, when I went to General Pop, it was General Pop, man. You walk in there, he's like, hey, yo, white boy, come here. It's like, what's up, man? It's like, what you in here for? Boob pics. What? And they go over there, hey, yo, man, what you in here for? Butt pics. What? And then I finally tell them, they're like, what the fuck? And I'm trying to explain it to you right now, and it's confusing, and like a lot of stuff is because it's still confusing to me. And I was finally in a good spot, man, to where I was finally happy to some extent because my career ended so fast. And Drop a Dime is like, then when the article came out, people started hitting me up again. I'm like, man, I just got to a good place in my mind to where I'm not talking about this stuff. I'm finally kind of smiling again. I'm getting back into jiu-jitsu and all this stuff. And then finally I was like, hey, you need to reach out to Andy. And that's when I reached out to you. And I was like, I don't know how well I'm going to explain it to him or to people. It's because it's so hard, man.
It seems like it's very layered. I think that's the it's not like each individual thing is difficult, but it seems like there's a lot of fucking layers to the onion.
There's more. It's a lot of layers, and it gets deep, man. And for me to try to explain it, it's hard, man. And I am writing a book, and so like,
well, what kind of discharge did you get?
So I didn't get a discharge. So the discharge that they gave me was, see, man, even that's so controversial because when I went to the brig, got out of the brig and stuff like that, the brig is a brig, man. It's prison. You go in there, you know, all day, every day, just cleaning and doing something and playing dominoes and making fun of other people. But then again, it's prison, so it sucks. But I guess there's a guy who stole a pie thing and got put. Anyway, there's some stories I can tell you. It's pretty funny. But when I got out, man, it was again like when I was in, the command kept coming after me because they wanted to ad-set me. Administrative Separation Board, which for that is, man, that's a kangaroo court. Like the admin sep should not have that much power. They have more power than the court martial and the court systems do because when I didn't hear anything. 9 months went by after I got out. 9 months went by. Finally, of 2020 in October of last year is when finally, October 30th is when they booted me out. So I didn't hear nothing, and I go to my ADSET board. So my ADSET board, we got notified 9 months after I got out of prison. So why did they keep me in for 9 months to this whole ADSET board? So finally, I didn't hear nothing either. I went back to first lieutenant. It was nothing. But then finally, they wanted me back at the command. So they tried to bring me back to the command to work at the command over at shipping and receiving. And I was like, you just accused me of all this stuff. Y'all found me guilty of Article 134, none of this stuff. But now y'all want me back at the command? So they brought me back to command. I made a big stink about that. I wrote IG complaints. I think I've written 10 IG complaints. And the only IG guy on the West Coast shut them down, or NSWDG, and shut them all down within 10 days, man. He's a rat. He's a snitch. He just, hey, here's all this stuff I did at the command. He'll go to the command and be like, look what he's saying y'all did. And the command will be like, oh, we didn't do that. He's like, okay, your IG complaint is unfound. Sorry. I mean, all my IG complaints got X'd.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much. So I go to the ADSET board, which is a kangaroo court. So they're supposed to pick 3 people. We try to get it moved from the command because they wanted it at the command. They wanted to make an example. But before that, they wanted to do a trident board, review board, to take my trident away. So I'm like, okay, I'll play this game. So come to find out is they wanted me to do a public trident review board. The CO, who was my squadron CO at one time, wanted to do a trident review board for me live, and he was going to send out a link to everybody globally who had access to this link, giant, sipper, whatever.
Why?
To make an example to humiliate me. I guess that's the only assumption I can have, to take my trident away. And I told him, no, I am not coming to the trident review board. I'm not obligated to go. And they said that if you don't come, we will press charges. Okay. I didn't go. They took my trident anyway. They took my trident when they first accused me because they took my pay away.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you can take my trident. So they took my trident away. But I was like, I'm not going to go and sit in the auditorium and have you videotape me getting my trident taken away to everybody on the globe. So if you had access to a giant, the janitors, the nutritionists, the strength and conditioning people all have sipper and giant access. They could have watched me get my trident taken away, which is fucked up, man.
I've never heard of that.
Neither have I. And they wanted to, and I told them no. And so the next day, sure enough, I came in. They brought me back to the command after that. They're like, you have to be here. And I was fighting tooth and nail to go back to NCIS Oceana because they were treating me better over there. I showed up to work and I went home, and everybody left me alone. You know what I mean? And people were supporting me. And I came in the next day. Okay, I'll come to shipping and receiving. I'll work over here with my trident on. And they walked up to me and said, if you do not take your trident off, and if you wear it again, we will press charges against you. They always said that. We will press charges against you. I left it on. I was like, okay, well, take it off me. Like, you're not going to take my trident off. In reality, I can just go to the next and buy another trident. You know what I mean? But it's the principle of the matter. And so we finally got the admin set board. You know, my lawyer's like, bro, just take that off. Just play the game. And so the ad set board, it's supposed to be people who know nothing about the case, who know no involvement of it whatsoever. So they picked these 3 guys, and I am going to call their Commander, I forgot this other SWIT guy, were the 3 judges at my panel for this administrative separation board to decide to either retain me in the Navy or kick me out of the Navy after the jury, justice, UCMJ, you know, found me to stay in the Navy. They're like, yeah, I found you guilty of Article 134, but you're staying in the Navy. But the command's like, negative, because ad set board trumps justice, which is fucked up because they use that to kick people out. So, and they were going to use a LNC, a legalman, chief lady who was part of the whole prosecute thing, to prosecute me at the ad set board. And she has no legal experience, but they were going to use her. And she was doing this the whole time. And my lawyer's like, no, kick her off. She has no business doing this. Kick those other 3 off. And we want to move this to Pensacola or to some other place that has no, the ad set board, so people can't influence the case. They said no. So we go to the building over there where it's over on the other side of base. And we walk up in there, man, and it's this prosecutor who works at the command. I think his name was. He's never hasn't prosecuted or done any legal work in like 8 years. He's got the command because he's like, oh, I represent SEAL Team 6, and they put that on the eval. It's all about evals. How well you look on your evals, that's how you get rank. And so he was doing the one prosecuting the case, not the original prosecutor, but him. It took those 3 clowns 30 minutes to what took a 4-year investigation to find nothing. They found me guilty in 30 minutes. They didn't want to hear our argument. They said, we already found you guilty, and they recommended other than honorable discharge, and they kicked me out. And after we did voir dire on them, have you ever been to a DR? Have you ever been to an ad set board as a panel member? Yes. For what? Well, one of the guys at Gold Squadron tested positive for steroids and cocaine. What was your outcome? We kept him. Okay, go to. What was yours? We had a guy test positive for marijuana. So what was your outcome? We kept him. Same thing with the other one. So right there's bias in there. It's like, okay, well, you kept these guys, but why are you kicking me out? And so we asked for the entire record, like the trial transcripts from the ad set board. And the command told us that they can't do that because they have no way of transferring over the stuff to a Nipper computer to send to us in an email. And so I was like, that's a lie, because I've had you assholes burn Call of Duty on Giant so I can play it overseas on the computer when I'm supposed to be looking at targets or something else. You know what I mean? It's like, don't tell me that you can't transfer everything you just did onto a disk to us. We're supposed to have that. And we've never got that, man. We still haven't got that transcript because we're going to use it. But I record everything and my lawyers record everything. And what they didn't see is I had a GoPro recording the whole thing. So it's like.
So where do you go from here?
So where do I go from here is like, well, before that, man, when they kicked me out, again, I waited a couple of days, but they never told me that I was getting, like, I was out of the Navy. You're supposed to get a 10-day notice, right, to get you prepared for your life, your transition, coming up from the admiral down. So they brought me in on a Friday. This was like a month later after my ADSET board. Brought me on a Friday at like 2 p.m. to go over my DD-214 and everything. So I go in, and the computers weren't working, and they're all like, well, that's fine, man. We'll get my DD-2. I got up 10 days, right? And like, no, today's your last day. So I was like, what do you mean today's my last day? Like, today's your last day in the Navy. So literally October 30th at 2:15 p.m. I got there at 2 at 2:15.
21?
2020, last year.
20, okay.
They're like, here's your DD-214, bye. And I drove off there 15 minutes later, out of the Navy. They never gave me my final paycheck. It never gave me anything, man. I literally drove off that base, 17 years gone, everything gone, no money, no pension, no medical, no nothing, man. Driving home to my kids. Like, what do you do? What do you do with that? You know?
I don't know. I've never been
People
faced
talk
with
about
something like that.
people like, you have to have a plan. You got to do this. What about people who get out? What about people, depression? What about suicide? Well, try getting your shit canned in 15 minutes after you got told you could stay, and then driving off that base, and now you have no way to pay your mortgage, no way to get food, no stable paycheck, no insurance, no nothing. The command wouldn't even let my kids stay on the base, the daycare right there. Influenced the daycare. Damn that daycare not to have my kids on there. I had them on the waiting list for 2 years, man. And I was finally time to come around. They said, nope, we can't have you on here. They wouldn't let my kids. So I had to pay $2,100 a month to go to this other school.
Whew.
And then now I had to pay for that without a paycheck. I had to pay for all the medical stuff, my mortgage. And it was a lot. I didn't really process it until something significant happened, man. That Christmas, something happened. And then the following year, of 2020, March of 2020, something significant happened to me that made me start realizing that I should have been more transparent with, certain people too. But then again, it's like, what do you do, man? Like, I did what I knew best is after certain things happened after that is I went down that rabbit hole, man. I did. And I still am not really back from it because people talk about depression and stuff, and people I've talked to some people like, oh man, I'm depression. Like there's a renowned psychiatrist and a psychologist who I was listening to one of their podcasts. I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want to get sued by them or anything, and they could, but I'm gonna get like $5 and maybe a McDonald's gift certificate that I got from Whitefish. But they said something about depression, that depression is curable. It is. You just got to find the right way to cure it. Meet the right people, do the right things. And I called bullshit, man, and I shouldn't have done that, but I was in a different place. But I was persistent. I sent emails, like, how am I going to get a hold of this person? Because this is a big person. Emails, phone calls, emails, you name it. Finally, I got a hold of the receptionist, and I was like, I call bullshit. This is who I am, whatever. I just asked for 10 minutes. That person gave me 10 minutes. I told them that depression is, and I am not by any means, man, an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am depressed and I live in depression, and it's not curable. It is, you have to learn to live with it. It is a part of you, and you have to have a way to make it sustainable. Because everything, this is just me, and everybody has their different way, but everything triggers me. Certain things, I might not be depressed for a year, and then a smell or trigger me, a taste or trigger me, and I have a flashback, and it'll make me think of it, and I'll get back in that slum. Maybe for a day, maybe for an hour, but I will always be depressed, but I will live with it. Like, it's just certain things will trigger me. That's just me though, man. And so where I go from here is, since I didn't get a year in jail or a year in prison, and I didn't get a, discharge at the court, I don't have the right to an appeal. So I go to an Article 69, which is I have to request an appeal, which my appeal goes right back to the same courthouse that I got prosecuted at, to the same prosecutor, to the same paralegals, to the same judge. So we did that, and it came back within like almost a year. Your, accusations were unfounded. And the person who looked at it and reviewed my appeal was a Lieutenant JG, fresh out of the academy. And of course, he's not going to put his career on the line and say, yep, case overturned. So, okay, well, let's file another appeal. So we just filed another appeal, and I just got that back recently. Same courthouse, same in Norfolk, everything. We found your arguments, no, false, no. It was literally two sentences. And so now I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? And he was like, my lawyer, Tim Parlatore, was like, well, we filed to the Navy Marine Court of Appeals, get it out of their hands. So that's what I just did month ago, was followed up to the Navy Marine Court of Appeals, sent them every single thing that I had, sent all the congressmen, everybody's name, all that stuff, man. And so whatever happens from there, happens from there. But I know it's out of Norfolk's hand, out of the Navy's hands. It's looked at by, I think, 4 different judges. I think two of them are civilian. I can't be sure, but it's civilian people, new eyes.
It's as close to a blank slate as it sounds like you're going to get.
It is. It's going to be the fairest I get out of all the look I get. And so how long that takes, it takes years, man. I think.
Fuck, dude. That's a hell of a story.
But that's just in a nutshell, man. Like, there's so deep into it, and I can go on to it, and I don't want to feel like I get in a rabbit hole and talk about stuff that people won't understand, man. There's just so much.
What are you doing with yourself in the time between here and back from that Court of Appeals?
Being a dad, man. That's one thing that's the best thing that came out of this, man, is being a dad, because not only does it make me a better person, it makes me smile, man. And kids keep you honest, man. They do. Like, yeah, it's just like it's a couple months ago, it was just like, you try to be sneaky around the kids. You want to show them, experience some stuff. So I was, watching the movies I like to watch. So I had Deadpool up there playing. My kids are 4.
Classic children's movie.
My kids are 4, man. So they're watching Deadpool. It's just like heads getting cut off and cussing and everything. I'm just like, yeah. Sure enough, a couple days later, I get the look. They say they watched Deadpool with you. I'm just like, the PG-13 version. But I was like, no, they watched. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we have to watch something else. And then what did we watch the other night? We watched Aliens, where Sigourney Weaver was fighting the Queen.
Dude, these kids are going to have fucking nightmares.
No, they don't. That's the thing about it, is, too. They're just like, oh, let's watch Aliens. But then the biggest thing is I've been watching Predator, where they fight Arnold. And, bro, when they take that mask off, they're like, let's just watch Predator. Predator.
When his face opens up.
I know. He says, like, you're one ugly motherfucker. I'm like, let's kind of mute that real quick. But I'm just being, I'm doing the case, man. I'm being a dad. I'm trying to, make ends meet. And I'm going to school. So I'm going to this trade school, man, this Universal Technical Institute, and basically working on cars. It's high school shop class, man.
Yeah.
Am I going to be a wrench turner or cranker? No, but it's 3 hours a day. And, I was digging around in a hot rod engine, learning how to take a transmission underneath it. I was like, this is pretty badass,
Yeah. Fuck, it's actually a good skill to have.
Well, it is a good skill, too. And the thing about it is, like, I learned that my mind is like it's a puzzle, man. And it's like I'm tinkering stuff and I'm learning something new, but it's just keep my mind busy. And I'm doing jiu-jitsu, back in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So
Awesome.
It's trying to keep my head, getting help, talking to people, man. And
yeah, so it's tough to say anything, right? Because I hope that your case is continuing to be ongoing. And of course you have that appeal in. So until that resolves itself finally, it'd be tough for you to talk about it maybe in a bigger picture. But for somebody listening to this who has no experience with the military, which they're going to have a hard time following a lot of this stuff, which is fine. What would you say to them? What would you want somebody to take away from this conversation?
I don't even know, man. Like, there's nothing you could take away. It's just, I want just to open your eyes, just to listen. If you're a leader, listen. If you want to be a leader, listen. And look at the bigger picture. I know people get, tunnel vision or whatever, toilet paper rolls, I guess look at the bigger picture, man. There's a lot more going on than what people are saying. Like, just because somebody gets accused of something, and even though in the military system they get found guilty, there's always 2 sides of the story, man. And from dealing with the UCMJ and stuff, it's 50-50, man. And I know they'll do anything to get a conviction, no matter what. I guess the biggest takeaway I can say is be a teammate, be a friend, be somebody that don't run. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to say, I don't know what to take away because I've never been asked that. I guess just say, listen, open up your eyes. Like, there's always 2 sides to a story, Don't be so quick to judge a book by its cover, because I know a lot of people are right now like, look at that shitbag talking. Well, why am I a shitbag? Talk to me. But they won't. Oh, I can't believe you had him on there. Well, why not? Well, because I heard this. It's and I'm trying to explain it the best I can, man, because there's just so much crap that goes on in here. I think even for people to even for the appeal people look at it, it's going to be like, what is this? Because I did send this to civilian prosecutors, my lawyers that we knew, and they were like, what is this? Is this a joke? Like, this is one, it's not a crime. But they wanted me to be a felon. And so I guess to say, just listen, man, yeah, man, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been at it for almost 3.5 hours. I mean, have you ever had this? It's tough, right? You're probably going.
I've never had this because I'm trying to explain it to you, and we didn't have any prep time for this. And I was like, I'm just gonna come in here and roll with it. And
well, even from somebody, so I was 1 month under 17 years in the Navy. And what I can tell you is my experience in the SEAL community was way different than yours.
Mine was good. It was great, man. It was good. But when I picked behind and when this happened, it opened my eyes, man, because you got to look at right now, people listen to this active duty or look at the person to your left, look at the person to your right, look at your teammates. Can you sit there and say that they'll all have my back? They'll have my back, ride or die, the brotherhood, let's get some, all that whole, voice changing, all that stuff. But will they be there for you when the shit goes on? Maybe in combat, maybe when bullets are flying, but if something else comes down, do you think they're going to be there for you 100%? They weren't for me. Guys I knew for 17 years, some 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Poof. And I get the same thing. It was nothing personal. I have children. Don't rat me out. Well, I have children. It was personal. And I'm not going to rat you out. Everything you said is in my trial testimony that I am giving to JAGs, lawyers, congressmen, congresswomen, people, podcasters, you name it. And your name is going to be in there.
Fuck,
and
man.
I couldn't do this, man. I couldn't come out here. I couldn't fight some of my legal battles without the help of Eddie and Andrea, without Sean Gallagher, without the Pipe Hitter Foundation, without Drago, without his wife Rachel, the Navy SEALs Fund. They came to my side, man. Like, they were there for me. Like, Drago, when somebody told me that, hey, somebody's looking for you, and I haven't seen Drago since, second phase.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, Drago's looking for you. I got that warm sensation of like, I am fucked. Like, first off, why is Drago looking for me? And you hear stories. I'm hiding my toasters. I'm hiding my books because you hear stories about toaster kills and stuff. I'm like, fuck, man. And like, I need to get out of country. But I was like, how? When he takes trips just to go to war. But then I get a phone call. And, it's Drago. And he's like, Aaron, what you doing? I'm like, who is this? It's Drago. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know what happened, what's going on, but I'm sorry, dude. I was like, no, but
I didn't do it.
he stayed next to me in the Buds barracks, man. So, and
yeah,
he would, that's what he was getting me for. I was like, he found out it was me, man, because I literally stayed next to him. That's when he was living in the barracks, and I'd wake up every morning, I'd kick his door, and he'd come out there, who kicking my door? But he also we'd go and, go do inspections and stuff, and that's when y'all come in there and check our rooms and stuff. Yeah. Well, Drago would come in after we left, and he'd come in there and brush his teeth, and there'd be splatters all over the mirror, and he'd unravel toilet paper for no reason, take a shower like a ox in there. But then he'd be the one to clean our to inspect our bathroom. Like, what you doing? I live with a bunch of pigs? He's like, you motherfucker. I'm like, Drago, you did that. He's like, no, I didn't live with pigs. What you doing? He's like, get out there and make sugar cookie,
Listen, you just can't win as a student. That's the lesson to be learned there.
I know. And it's... But that with the Navy SEALs Fund, man, and Drago and the Pipe Hitter Fund, dude, I couldn't pay for, some bills. I couldn't pay for this trip to come out here, man. And it's I owe them a lot, man. It's good, man. So anybody, I guess take away is look into their foundations and help, man.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I could do to help other than, offer the platform for you to speak openly, but I definitely appreciate you taking the time to come out. I mean.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It seems like it's I guess it's a risky subject, man, because people see it and it has like sexting or nude pictures, but there's no nude pictures, man. There's not one.
Yeah.
Butt picture, tit picture, anything, man.
Fuck.
That's the top cover of it, man. I mean, there's some layers and layers and layers that we need to talk, I can talk to you offline. That it's hard to explain, man. Like,
well, and some of this stuff I would hold back until you have the official proceedings and allow themselves to play themselves.
And that's why I was like, I was going to send you stuff. But I was like, I don't really want him to have that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
So, because I was like, well, they're going to come after you or something. Like, no, but
God, I hope so. They wouldn't enjoy that.
It's like, I know all your tactics. They're gonna clear the corner.
Yeah, they wouldn't enjoy that.
Yeah,
Dude.
But during that time frame, man, it was just like I was getting death threats and rocks to my window, and I got the patch. You know, somebody threw rocks to my window and keyed my car, my trash getting kicked. I got it all on a Ring video, man. But it's like I can't go and accuse these guys. Like, these are guys from SEAL Team 6 doing this. I'm like, okay, well, how do you know that? But my patch was on the wall with a knife in there and all that shit, and a rat, and like, I'm not ratting on anybody. If you want me to rat on things, I'll start ratting on people. But it's like, why? What good does that do? Yeah. You know what I mean? You dig your own grave, man. But like I said, thanks for having me out here. I wish we could have rolled. I mean, usually, you can roll anywhere, man.
I guess, but why would you roll anywhere other than mats?
Why not, man? Jiu-jitsu's everywhere.
Yeah, but it fucking hurts on gravel.
It does.
I guess unless you play on top. So, no, dude, thank you for the time. Thank you for unpacking all that, and I hope it makes a difference for you, man.
I hope it does too, man. I know it's confusing for people listening and stuff too, man. It's confusing for me, and it's hard because I haven't really talked about it like this in a long time, and I'm, trying to give you the best analogy that I can.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Trying to make it make sense.
Yeah, man.
So hopefully I get my bags tonight and I have some stuff to brush my teeth with in the morning.
Fair enough. On that note, that could be the longest podcast I've ever recorded. Went by fast, though.
It did.
Cool. All right, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.